Welcome, everyone, to episode 93 of the Looks Like a Movie podcast. My name is Kevin. I'm here with Doug and Owen, and today we're talking about one of the year's biggest double features, Gladiator II and Wicked. But first, as always, we can talk about what we watched this past week. Owen, would you like to go
I
first?
think it's safe to say that this is the big double feature for the year.
I
I
think it
feel
is,
like
yeah, but I didn't want to, I don't know. I guess
you
it
want to
is,
step
yeah.
on anybody's toes,
I mean, Christmas Day is kind of big with
but that's not
Nosferatu
like
and,
those are like
and
there's like five
The Complete
movies. We don't really count
Unknown.
as it's
And
not really a double feature. You're there all
sure.
like you can
I
go
mean, Moana
there.
2 also comes out like
That's
does it
not
come out next
real.
weekend or in the middle of the week? I feel like it comes out because it's Thanksgiving. It's a Thanksgiving release.
They
So
already wait. So Moana 2 is different from the live action one.
yes, so
There's
Moana
two
2 comes out
Moana.
this Thanksgiving, this Thursday, and
Yeah,
then the live action one comes out next year, which is so strange, but
and
also not the subject of this
they're
podcast.
so they're remaking the first movie but live
Yes,
action.
yes, but
That's
they're also
ridiculous.
releasing it a year after they make an animated sequel to the first movie. Not to
Awesome.
confuse the children. So the
Awesome.
children are going to get their sequel, and then they are going to go back and watch the first movie, but live.
And then
And
they're
then
gonna
maybe, I
remake the
guess,
second one.
the second one would also be live after that,
Kind of
possibly. Or
a
maybe they will
limited
release
money
the third
glitch.
animated one
They
before.
fucking clack. That's
Yeah.
awesome, man.
Anyway, what
I'm
did you
proud
watch?
proud of you.
It,
What? Oh,
it's
I wa- I rewatched an 80s Godard, and then I watched a new one. The one I rewatched was The Power of Speech, which is like a 25-minute short film that's really cool. Just wanted to revisit it as I'm just working on my film. And then I watched I Married a Witch because it felt like kind of thematically relevant to what I was going to watch later in the week. And also it looked really great. And I really did enjoy it. I definitely recommend it. It's on Criterion and Max, film from the 40s. Renee Claire, I don't know if I'm saying that right, but really, really amazing. Really fun, kind of like melodrama about this witch who like goes to modern day and she's kind of like causing havoc. There's like a really awesome, like fun special effects stuff going on. There's like it's her father and her are witches or like whatever, and they kind of float around as like smoke. So they're like little like balls of smoke, and there's a scene where the two of them are on a broom, but they're just like smoke,
There's
and so it's just
smoke.
a lot of talking smoke flying around on brooms, and it's very like silly 40s like fun, but it also like has like a really sweet romance at the center of it. So yeah, I definitely recommend that one. I like that one a lot. And then I watched the two movies we'll talk about today, and then the 80s Godard that I watched, that was a new one, was Detective from 1985, and I really like that as well. There's a bunch of the 80s Godards are really great. It's kind of like his like first late period, maybe you would say, like because it's like that feels late for guitar, but then there's like 40 more years of that. So it's definitely a distinct period in his filmography that is like separate from the modern stuff, but definitely different from like his 60s work. But yeah, I really like Detective, and that's yeah, not too much for me this week. Kind of finishing up with school and stuff, so I'll be watching more stuff in on the break.
I watched Gladiator, first Gladiator with only one eye.
You
Holy,
didn't
Uh,
watch the second one?
no, he did
uh,
it. He
uh,
didn't watch it. He actually
and
lied. He tweeted about it and wrote a letter about it. He didn't even leave the house.
and I watched The Wizard of Oz,
Right.
directed
This
by
guy.
Oh, don't forget
Oh,
his name. You
oh
tweeted about him 12
no!
times.
wait,
You
Oh
posted
no!
14 polls on Twitter about
Oh
him. You gotta.
no!
Victor
Sam Raimi.
Fleming. I was
There you
thinking
go.
in my head I was going William Fleming, and I'm like that's not right.
Yeah, no,
Um,
not at all.
That's his uncle.
co-directed by King Vidor, which
Mm.
is crazy. Um, and I watched Far and Away, which is a Ron Howard picture, starring Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman. It's very silly. It's so silly. It's kind of like The Brutalist.
Oh,
And then I watched
Let me see Ron Howard's The Brutalist.
uh and I watched Yes Madam, which is kind of like it's a Hong Kong picture. It's like an 80s Michelle Yeoh movie. It's really, 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 really good. Um, it is very funny, very cool. I really, really recommend this movie a lot. And then I watched A Real Pain yesterday,
Oh, yeah.
last night.
A movie
I
that we
watched
kind
A
of
Real Pain.
mentioned barely last week.
No,
Do
he
you
never
wanna?
mentioned it.
Well, you
Yeah,
weren't here, so
we talked about it a little bit
Yeah,
last
that's why
week.
we never mentioned it.
right.
Um,
Do you want to
I
give
don't
us
think
your thoughts
Jesse
now that you've seen
Eisenberg's a
it?
talented filmmaker.
Okay.
You don't think he is?
I don't think he is.
Okay.
Got him.
The movie's fine though.
Fucking got him.
Do you have any input now after seeing it on whether or not it will be in the best picture conversation?
I hope not, but like maybe I don't know. It's such
Okay.
a I don't know. It's such like a minor work.
Yeah.
They're saying it's his best one yet.
Well, he has two movies,
Yeah,
Yeah.
and the other one was historically bad. They say.
but
It's
like
kind
I
of
don't
like
like.
we say. I don't know if it's actually historically bad. I think more people like it than they don't.
I think I was
Than people who
confusing him
don't.
as a different guy.
Yeah, probably. I
I
don't
think I
think
was.
people really
Did
hate
Charlie
that
Day
first
direct a
movie as much
movie?
as
The Charlie
Yes,
Day.
I
Was that what
think
I was
he
thinking
Charlie
of?
Day
yeah.
directed a movie that
Is that
people
what I was
really
thinking
hate.
of? The movie
Yeah,
that people thought was awful. I think
people say
I
that
saw
Charlie
the
Day
Jesse
movie was
Eisenberg
really
movie.
bad.
The
I
movie
don't know
with
what the
that
Charlie
that
Day
movie has
movie
Ben
is.
Wolfhard and Julianne Moore, right?
Well, the
Yes,
Charlie Day
that's the
movies.
Jesse Eisenberg one. What's the Charlie
Yeah,
Day
okay.
one?
That's not what I was
So
thinking.
the
I wasn't thinking of the Charlie Day
the
movie.
Charlie Day movie is where he can't talk, and then he
Oh,
like
Fool's Paradise.
Yes, that's
yeah,
what I
yeah,
was
yeah.
thinking of.
Yes, this does look terrible. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, sorry, I got mixed up. Um,
Yeah. I see what's happening now.
yeah, the Jesse Eisenberg movie that I saw was like, it's fine, it's whatever. It's like
Right.
bad, but it's like not like it's like
No, A Real Pain's good, but it's
Real
like
Pain's
it's
like
like
good.
not. It's not
it's
like
like
an
fine
Oscar
though,
movie,
you
you know.
know? It's like fine.
It's yeah, it is. It doesn't entirely feel Oscar movie, other than the fact that like I guess it's relative. Um,
It's like the movie. It's about these two guys that go to Poland, and one of them is really fucking annoying, and like and that's just what the
that
movie's
is
about. And it's like, all right,
yeah, sure.
Yeah.
What was your review on that? Something about like people who go to therapy will really like it or something?
no, I said people that are really into therapy will really like
They
it.
don't even go.
Yeah,
They're just like into it.
Yeah,
I
you know
see.
what I
I
mean?
go
Like
to
there's like,
therapy and I'm not into it, but I
but
look
like
forward to it. I'm not like into it. I feel like when you say into it, you mean like like somebody is like really thinks it's working and they get excited about it. I just kind of like do it.
yeah,
You
no,
might
no,
be
yeah, that's
into it.
different. Yeah, by into it, it's like somebody like therapy's one of like their interests. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah, I
Like,
see. Like a hobby.
yeah,
They like talk about it and
Um,
recommend it to others.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
I see. Um, okay. I started my week with a little bit of Clint, a little $1 million baby action. Um, which is a good movie. I cried. I cried at like every movie I watched this week, actually, but that's beside the
You're
point.
such a bitch.
No, these are like I watch a lot of sad movies. I watched this movie Us and Them, which I like. I just somebody recommended it to me, but I don't remember who it was, so I apologize if you're listening to
Oof.
this.
Yeah.
Um, but I think it might have been on like a TikTok stream or something, so that's probably
Yikes.
why. But it's like a
Yikes.
Netflix like romance. It was
It's
really
like
cute.
slop.
No, it's not. Well, like it was like a nice movie actually, but I think it was like hyped up a little bit more than I imagined. I don't know. The way people talked about it, I thought it was like really gonna hit, and it was just kind of cute. I was like, it's a cute romance. I watched The Wizard of Oz as we all did. Good movie.
I didn't
Nothing
do
to
that.
add there. Oh, you did? Oh,
No, been there, done that. I've
okay.
seen that movie. I saw the movie this
Did
year.
you watch
So
Gladiator this week?
no, I watched both of them this year, like again.
Oh,
Well,
I see.
actually, it was my first time seeing
So
Gladiator
you
this
just didn't
year.
want to rewatch them
I've
because you already
rewatched The
watched
Wizard of
them.
Oz like
Okay.
a billion times, so I
Yeah.
didn't think I needed the refresh. You know.
I see. Big movie I watched this week, and a release from earlier this year that I watched twice in back-to-back days was Red Rooms. Is like a true crime movie, kind of like a criticism of the whole true crime thing, which is not like exactly a new idea. It's like weird that a lot of people have kind of presented it as like a bold new take on true crime because it's kind of not that. It's actually like a pretty standard take on true crime, which is like hey, this stuff's kind of bad, and like your relationship to it is kind of weird. Like it's not really reinventing the wheel, but I think maybe people get that impression because of just like some of the places that it goes to. It's like it gets like really creepy in a way that I've never seen in a movie before. Um, and I just really enjoyed it. I think it really just like works on all the levels, even if it's not what people are setting it up to be. Definitely one of my favorite movies of the year, and I would really recommend it. And it's really fucking scary. There's a scene toward the end of the movie that is like by far the scariest thing I've seen in a movie this year. And it's like nowhere close. Like I actually had to kind of I wanted to throw up after watching it. It was pretty brutal. And there's like not really any gore. So that's not what I'm implying. It's just like it just makes you feel bad.
Makes you
Um,
feel bad.
yeah, and then speaking of feeling
Like
bad,
Wicked.
last night I watched Manchester by the Sea, a movie that I have seen before. And I feel like I talk about it a lot, and I talk about Kenneth Lonergan a lot, who is like one of our most talented writers. But man, he's kind of like good at everything, dude. It's like it's kind of like a disservice to just be like, oh, this is just a really good like script and like Casey Affleck's really good in the movie. It's like, no, it's kind of just like a good movie, or a great movie, even. Kenneth Lonergan really knows what he's doing. I don't think either of you have seen it. You say that you haven't seen a single one of his movies, so don't make that face. And you would like, I know Doug would like Margaret. I don't think you would like Manchester by the Sea as much, but that's a different conversation. It's really sad and it makes me feel good despite it being really sad. And I don't have to talk about Manchester by the Sea. Everybody's seen that movie. And then this morning, I watched this movie that I have never heard of until like 10 minutes before I watched it. It's called They Came Together, and it is just like a I know, funny name. It's funny on purpose. It's like a parody of rom-coms. It's like a 2014 comedy with like Paul Rudd and Amy Poehler and Bill Hader and like a bunch of like the cast is just like loaded with comedians. And I just like I didn't even know what it was. And it's so fucking funny. It's like one of the funniest movies I've ever seen. And it's like a parody of rom-coms, but then it also kind of like goes above that. Like it's like making fun of like rom-com tropes, but like really it's just doing that as like a setup just so it could do all these like funny cutaway gags pretty much, like all these like stupid gags, and then just it's like endless and you're just laughing the whole time. And I didn't even know it existed until this morning, and I came across it and I just watched it immediately and I was like, this one's really good. So if anybody needs a laugh, I would recommend this one a lot. And Wicked is an
Wicked.
adaptation of the stage musical,
Wicked,
the very famous musical
which
Wicked.
is an adaptation of the
Um,
book.
yes,
Show.
and we all kind of didn't
Loved
like
it.
this movie that
Yeah.
much, and the people do not agree with us. This movie
Well,
is making a lot of money, and
Who
people
doesn't?
are
Who is these
really
people?
liking
yeah,
it.
can you name the people that don't agree with us?
Name them. Name them. Government
Like
names.
like everybody besides us.
No,
As I
no,
was
No,
leaving
no.
my
no, that's not
theater,
true.
someone sitting in like a row, a couple rows in front of us. We were walking down the stairs to exit the theater, and as we're passing these people, someone turns to like the person they're with, and they're just like, "That's the best movie I've ever seen."
If you
Um,
go to any popular fucking movie,
Oh,
like
yeah,
you'll hear somebody say
they
that.
said that about a
yeah,
different
but it
one.
seems like that is like a pretty popular fit. The movie has a 4.2 on Letterboxd
Letterbox is
right
cooked,
now.
bro. Letterboxd is cooked.
People are really liking it. Uh, do we want to talk about why we don't like it first, or do we want to be positive? I feel like we could
Well,
be
can we just
positive.
talk about it?
Yeah.
So Wicked, it's like you said, it's an adaptation of the musical, which is an adaptation of the book.
But
This
it's a
is
book
notable.
that is like like it's post like a lot of things. Like it's a very new book, all things like considered.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's kind of it's really weird because
I think
that kind of starts with it being like kind of fan fictiony and like
I think
it
the most recent book, because it's a series of like the book has like four
yeah.
sequels. I think the most recent one came out in like 2018 or something.
Let me
The original was in 1995.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Right.
So yeah, it kind of like it's. I mean, obviously, Wicked is acting as like a prequel to the original Wizard of Oz, but it's separate and it kind of exists in a different universe in a
it is an
way.
elseworld story,
Yeah.
like because it does not the ending of Wicked does not line up to the Wizard of Oz.
Yeah, but we'll not. I mean, that's more. We'll talk about
We're
that
not
in a
even at that
year.
movie yet.
We'll talk
That's what
about
I'm
Yeah,
that in
getting
a
at.
we haven't
year.
even gotten to the second.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a part one. We can start there. It's a
Yeah.
part one movie that's not marketed
Yeah.
as a part one movie
Notable
until
this
you step into
Until
the
you sit
theater.
down and it says
well
part one on
it's
the
Yeah.
like
fucking
Dune,
titles.
and it's like the first Dune
Yeah, it's
movie
like
like that.
Dune. Um,
Yeah.
Notably, this movie is longer than the stage
Mhm.
musical,
yeah.
while
Yeah.
only
Well,
being the first part.
Or just
it's
like a
5 minutes shorter, but close enough.
like the
Is
same.
it?
It's
Yeah.
still,
The
but
streets
So
were saying it was 10 minutes longer. Maybe they're
technically
joking.
it is because that's including the intermission. So it's 2 hours and
Oh,
45 minutes including the intermission, and
that's
this
crazy.
is 2 hours and
it
40
felt
and
longer
40
than the
minutes.
Brutalist.
So if you get rid of the intermission, technically this is longer than the stage musical.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
And it feels like it. It's like
Yeah.
Well,
um
yeah, so I don't want to like it's kind of weird to be like, "Oh, I don't want to like spoil the movie," but also
it doesn't even, it's so big
there's
and
nothing to
like
spoil because
yeah.
it's the first half of the story.
Well,
This is
yeah,
a 3-hour
everything
movie
like
about how the Wicked Witch of the West gets her broom.
Yeah.
You
it's
know?
how she gets her
Like
broom, how
it's
she
how she
gets her
gets her
hat,
broom.
and how Galinda changes her name to Glinda.
Yeah, it's like that's what
it's
the movie's about.
it's
It's
like
fucking
really
2 hours of
ridiculous.
exposition.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
Especially towards I don't know, this was the most notable part to me, but like the what's the name of the big song? Why am I forgetting it now at the end?
Popular?
No, no,
no,
no, not
it's
popular.
the
The flying one. Fuck.
Oh,
defying gravity.
Defying
Defying
Gravity.
Gravity.
Thank you. When they do Defying Gravity at the end, there's
Mhm.
like a 5 minute conversation that takes place while
Yeah,
the
like in
song is happening.
between, they like stop singing
They
and then
like
they like.
stop every line of singing to
Mhm.
keep talking and like doing more exposition. It's like exhausting by that point. And I was like kind of into it at the beginning. Like I was like, oh, I think I'm gonna like this, and then it just went downhill really
Well, there's
fast.
elements that are like intriguing. I think it's just kind of like there's so much about it that just like is so like doomed from the start, or like just how
Yeah,
like they kind of plan to do this.
Yeah.
But like there are elements like I'm very interested in it as like an I like kind of a concept in a rather than like watching it or it being like a film. I think it's very interesting because I've been like reading about like all the stuff that happens in Act Two, and I think like I'm interested in it because it's like kind of is ridiculous, and it's also like this is stupid, and this is like really like fan fiction bullshit. But it also like it still
Yes.
is interesting. It still is like oh this is interesting to read about, but also when you watch the movie like the same stuff, it's like oh this is interesting. I also think it's probably this is bad, but it's still interesting in a weird
yeah.
way.
I mean, could they
There's a
not
reason
fit
why
it into
nobody
3 hours
talks about
though?
what did you say? Sorry.
Can they not fit it into a 3 hour movie though? Like that's what confuses me.
They could well
Well,
this
it,
it's a decision that was made for a variety of reasons, I imagine.
yeah. Because they
One
can
of
make
them
$2 billion now, then and then it is
Sure,
$1 million,
yeah.
yes.
Sure, sure, sure. Yeah.
And also it would be like it would be a very fast-paced movie
Yeah.
with just me. I understand making it longer. I don't understand making it twice as long. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I feel like if they did like if it was just like a little over 3 hours long and it was the whole movie,
Hmm.
that would make
Right.
more sense to me. 6
Or like,
hours is so much.
yeah.
You know?
Do we
I
know that the second movie is going to be this long?
probably. I mean,
It
it's gonna be
has to
2 hours
be.
at least, right? So it's
Yeah.
five
Right.
hours no
Yeah.
matter what.
Yeah.
Um, one of the big things is like it's so long, but I feel like everything's kind of undercooked. So like it's like, oh,
Right.
I wish I got more of like all of these people because I didn't get enough of them because all the time we're spent with them, like I'm not getting anything. So like
All
it's
the
so long,
side
like
characters are kind of like introduced and then tossed to the side.
exactly like it's so long. I'm like, dude, what the like I didn't even get any of them, and
Yeah,
Do
it's like,
what
you
happened to the SpongeBob guy? What's he up
do
to?
you want more of some of them though? I feel like
yeah.
some of them were not good.
Who do you don't like?
I
Who you
thought
not
Bowen
rocking
Yang
with?
was kind of annoying,
Okay, well, Bowen
but
Yang
he's
is like
like,
not even a character.
yeah,
It's
he's
just
like just
Bowen
there
Yang
to like
doing like
make
SNL
jokes.
bits.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, so like cut
Um,
him
So
right?
are you like I guess like the sister uh
Well,
is
because
like a
she's
character
important,
that we could have.
You guys
Yeah,
watch The Wizard of Oz. She's pretty important
yeah.
because
That
that
I
was
she's good.
she is the more interesting. Maybe not how like I'm not familiar with too much about the actual written thing, but I think her backstory is more interesting maybe than like most of the other guys because like when you watch The Wizard of Oz, all you see is her feet. Like you
Yeah.
never like she's like the most like unnot character in those movie like that movie. So she's interesting. I mean, she's obviously gonna have more or at least a little more to do in the second part, but like yeah, she's not really a character here. I really like Jonathan Bailey. I think he's
Yeah, he's good.
fun. He kind of you toss him, you gotta get rid of him. I mean, like he's like I was kind of saying like maybe you introduce him a little earlier. I don't know. It's tough because you have a bunch of characters, but then you kind of like uh, Michelle Yeoh, I know Doug tweeted about it. She's pretty bad in the movie.
Yo, her
Did not.
characters I think is
Yeah.
interesting. Her performance is so bad.
It's like she's like reading like the lines,
No, it's like she has like a fucking like
like
an
earpiece.
yeah, an earpiece in, and like the
Yeah.
and like a producer's like like whispering the fucking lines in
Yeah,
her ear. It's like it's so bad.
I felt similarly about Jeff Goldblum too. I
Jeff
I
just
mean
Goldblum
he's just
is
doing
just
Jeff Goldblum.
yeah,
he's just
that's what I
he's
but that's
playing the
like
same character he plays in every fucking movie.
yeah, but that is
Yeah.
like phoning it in. Like it is
No,
like
yeah,
Oh
yeah,
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 no,
yeah.
I'm not. It's not a
it's
good
like
performance.
him doing his
Um,
thing. I don't, but I yeah, I do like Jonathan Bailey a lot, and I think when he shows up,
yeah, he's
it kind of like
fun.
saves the movie for a minute because it was like I was like interested at first, and then I'm like, oh, this is going somewhere I don't want it to.
Well,
Then he shows up, and I'm
I
like, oh, it's exciting again, and then it goes somewhere I don't want it
I
to.
think his character and Elphaba are like interesting together, but like it never really like does a lot with it, and
Right,
it just kind of like flirts with it for like a second, and then we have to like toss him to the side and leave him.
right.
Um,
I
I'll
think Jonathan Bailey's performance is really good. Did you know that Shawn Mendes was in talks?
that
Like
would be
yeah,
ridiculous.
Shawn
significantly worse.
Mendes.
Wasn't Shawn Mendes in?
Um,
No, what movie was he in?
I don't know. I don't know
I
if he's been in a
don't.
movie.
I'm not aware
I
of
just know that
Shawn
he
Has he just
auditioned
Mendes'
for
like?
that Jonathan Bailey
filmography
part.
work. Well, that is
Oh,
I think
never
that's an
mind.
important thing to
He's
bring
only
up
been in
because
Lyle Crocodile. Sorry.
oh, that is
Oh, as
true.
the
He was the fucking
crocodile.
crocodile.
That's not what
Yeah.
I was thinking of, though. For some reason, I thought he was in the Cinderella movie, but that's Camila Cabello who plays
Oh
Cinderella.
no, that's yeah, this is X.
Yeah,
Yeah,
The
that is
Woat
for some
also
reason,
Camila Cabello.
yeah, but for some reason I
um
got confused and thought they just like were in the movie together, but they're very much not.
I think when you bring up Shawn Mendes, I'm thinking about, and I think it's important to bring up that this movie was kind of like in development for a while, and like a lot of different directors were brought in, or not brought in, but like kind of thought of, and it finally is getting to happen now. And it was interesting because I mean it makes sense. Wicked is like even if you don't go to musicals, like that's something you just know about. Like it's a huge thing. It's really
Are
massive.
Ariana Grande has been aware of this movie. Obviously, she's been aware of Wicked her whole life, but
Yeah,
she's
yeah,
been
Yeah.
aware about like this iteration of Wicked like being in development for so long that the Sweetener tour, which was her album before this album pre-COVID, it was like her 2018, 2019 tour, I think. She said that she was prepared to cancel that entire tour to audition for Wicked. So it's like that, and that was like fucking 6 years ago now.
Yeah.
Um,
yeah,
Wow.
which is interesting. Um,
So it's like this shit has been cooking in a fucking
Yeah.
crock pot.
one other because we talked about Bailey and some of the other side characters, I did really like Peter Dinklage as like the goat professor, and that's like
Yes.
another like side story or like subplot that was like, oh, this is kind of interesting. It's like giving like
Yeah.
Narnia.
No, I think the animal stuff was cool because that is like um like it's like an interesting I always think animal racism in movies is kind of I don't know, it works on me. I
Right.
think
oh
it's
yeah,
a
I
really
mean
effective way to
it's
do to talk
Yeah.
about issues like that. And I think that it's interesting because it's like something that is inspired by the Wizard of Oz, right? It's like, oh, there's talking animals in the Wizard of Oz, but then it's like, okay, but like, why are they different? And it's like interrogating that, and I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, that's
yeah.
that's an interesting
Well,
angle to take.
I thought
Like,
that bit was like the only part of the whole movie that was like, oh, this makes the world bigger and more interesting.
mhm.
Like it adds
Yeah.
something. Like this specific element to Oz like makes everything more interesting,
You
where
know what?
everything else is just like, this is how she got her hat.
Well, yeah, you know what fucking doesn't add anything to the world of Wizard of Oz? Learning how the monkeys got their wings. That shit is
is
so dumb. That shit is so.
Yeah.
I knew that was gonna be in the fucking movie because I know that's in like Wicked.
yeah.
I watched that and I'm like, this is so like stupid. This is so like prequel brain like writing.
Well,
Right.
a lot of it is very prequel brainy and like fan servicey, but that's just like it's like in the text of the musical is
Yeah,
like
that's
just
what I
like
was gonna
the
ask. Like, is this like just like a really accurate adaptation?
yeah, that's what I've heard. I mean,
Yeah,
I haven't
that's
seen
also
it,
what
but
I've
that's
heard. That's why I was wondering because I kept thinking about things that bothered me, and I was like, "Oh, these bother me," but then they're probably just in Wicked already. Like, it's I don't know how like, I feel like not much of
yeah.
it was added for the movie,
Well,
so a
that's
lot of
I
the stuff
yeah,
that
so
was
in
bothering me,
my,
I was like,
like,
maybe I
just
just wouldn't.
research, it feels like it gets more prequel-y, like, prequel-itis or whatever you wanna call it, in the second
Yeah,
part, with just, like, certain things that we won't bring up today, but, yeah, it feels like it just is a problem with the musical, but then, like, it's like, if you adapt something like that, it's like, do you have to I don't
This is
know.
what I think, but like stage musicals and movies are different things.
Yeah.
yeah,
That's my thing. So it's like just because it's like, oh, this is in the musical, I don't think that means
No,
that
you don't have
it's
to
like
put it in
it
the
just works in the movie. I
No,
yeah,
think like
100%.
we already went through this as like with when Dear Evan Hansen happened, where it's like, oh, Dear Evan Hansen is like this, this fucking musical that won 15 Tonys, and
Yeah,
then the
and
movie
now
comes
he's a
out and it's like
30-year-old
a
kid.
super accurate musical and it gets totally rejected. It gets
yeah.
totally rejected by everybody because it's like,
Yeah.
whoa,
I would
it's like
also
Well,
it's
accept a
too
lot of this
close
stuff
now.
in the musical. Like,
that's the thing is
if I was
the
watching a stage
musical,
musical, I'd be like, "Yeah, that's fine." But, like, in the
yeah,
movie,
everyone's
I'm
like,
like,
"Oh,
"This is
it's her
fucking
hat
dumb." Like,
origin story." I'm like, "That's silly. That's
No,
fine."
that's what I
yeah,
mean. That's what I mean. It's like it's
But
totally
in a
different.
movie, it's like
yeah.
you're fucking you gotta be fucking kidding me.
I will
But
say that
that's
the animal stuff like, the part where they have, like, the little meeting, like,
Mhm.
when all the animals are meeting, I was like, "This could just be the movie." I mean, like, I kinda wanna watch more
Yeah.
of this stuff. I wish I don't know. I guess they were always going to do a very faithful adaptation,
Oh, yeah.
but I'm like, I don't know. Some of the stuff in here, like you were saying, is like cool and I could be into it if it went into any of those directions and it doesn't really do
Yeah. Well, that's
much
what
of
I'm
that
saying.
at
It's like
all.
I think Wicked as like a concept is interesting, and I think like I mean I love Oz. Like the Wizard of Oz movie is one of my favorite movies, and I think it's like a great world. I think it makes sense that we return there, and there's like a lot of you can do really anything. Um,
Yeah.
and so it makes sense to do kind of a prequel or just like a movie about the world. Um, but yeah, there's just some things that just work better
Yeah.
as a musical than a movie,
Do
and
I have a hard time with returning to Oz a little bit
mhm,
just because, and I know that there's so many books that take place in this world.
yeah,
My argument to that would be there's a reason why you never hear anybody talk about any of those fucking
the
books.
other books, yeah.
Yeah. Including like the original books or this Wicked series, like two different series. There's like a bunch of these Wicked books too.
Mhm.
Um there's a reason why you don't hear anybody talk about them. But my the problem that I have internally about returning to Oz is that the movie The Wizard of Oz, it's the whole thing is Dorothy's dream,
Yeah,
right? And the whole thing has to be her dream because everything that happens in the movie and all the characters
are just
represent,
people she knows in
yeah,
real life.
people in her real life. It's like
yeah.
it's literally her dream. Like that's like, so when you take that away, it's like, okay,
Yeah, that's why I really like, I don't think both of you have seen it, but, Return to Oz is really great because that's just
Oh,
Dorothy going back to Oz, and it's
yeah,
like her in that world again, which it
that
works.
makes
It's
sense.
and you
Yeah.
can do that because you can just recast Dorothy, like, it's like you can just redo it, like, that's kind of how they did, the Tim Burton Alice in Wonderland movie, where it's just like that's basically Return to Oz, where it's like she's just older and she's coming back instead of like, because you can remake it if you want to, but another option is to make in terms of that kind of narrative structure. Yeah,
yeah,
but that is like a big thing where it's like that is just like the kind of text of the film or like the book or like the Wizard of Oz. It's
Yeah.
just basically that, which
It's
doesn't make it a world. So it is very like elseworldy, fan fictiony kind of stuff.
no. yeah, and then you have this, which is like that, but then you have John M. Chu, director John M. Chu making like a really, like, he said this in an interview, and you can tell when you watch the movie, it's really
Yeah.
obvious, right? Making the creative decision where he said he does not want it to feel like a dream, like it is a like
Yeah.
explicit creative decision.
Yeah. Which
Um,
well, he was like, I want it to feel real.
Which is so confusing. She's
But
green. I just said this earlier. I literally was just talking about this. I was like, he was like, people wouldn't believe it. That's what he says. It's
the
something like
movie
that, right?
opens
He's
up
like,
and
he's
Linda's
like,
in a
people wouldn't
fucking
believe it if
bubble.
these weren't like real girls or whatever. It's like,
real
she's
girls.
green. She
There's a
like,
fucking goat teaching them.
yeah.
Well,
It's like, what do
I,
you mean
I
people wouldn't believe? It's like you're already
And
what?
it's
cinema
so
It's
is
so
already
bizarre.
so
confusing.
inherently dreamlike. Like,
Well,
It
I
feels like a
think like
cop out answer. No, does it not just feel like he like had to make
yeah,
up a
it's like
reason
he
for why
fucking
it
made
if
looked
that
he
up
like
on the
really
that?
wanted to,
spot.
if he really wanted it to feel real, he should have shot the shit in 60 frames per second.
Yeah, well,
Dude,
it's
imagine
like
it's like fucking Gemini Man, Wicked.
I
Yeah,
feel
like
like he
literally
was
like
just
Gemini
like
Man.
I feel like he just had to like make up an answer, and that was not what his thought process was, because there's no
Yeah,
way that like, because that doesn't make sense.
Well,
It's like,
I
what do you
kept
mean you
thinking
want it to
of
be
I
realistic?
don't
It's
know. I'm
not.
interested to see if you guys thought of any other movies when watching this because I was like one thing that I kept thinking about because they're going to fucking magic school, I was like, oh,
right.
the first Harry Potter movie, which came out like 20 years ago, right? And that is a movie about magic school, also for like families, like a movie for families, a big
Right.
budget family movie about a magic school. And the fucking school feels real and it looks good.
Yeah.
And
I
I
was
was like,
thinking about Wizard
what?
101.
Well, that's I Wizard 101. Wizard 101 in the movie. Someone get
Yeah.
on that. Get John M. Chu on that. But my one of my things was like when it's so funny that he says this because when watching the movie, it's like, oh, this feels like a fake. Like all of it feels very fake. And I was talking to one of our friends about it. I was like, oh, this feels very fake. And he was kind of saying like, oh, it's it's Oz. Like it's kind of it is fake. And then it's funny to hear the director say like, no, I want it to be very real because the whole time like
Yeah.
this is fake in like a way that like it feels not intentional and like looks horrible and it looks
Yeah.
it's like fake in like a parody kind of way rather than like a like oh this is like really cool.
It feels like Disney World.
It
Yeah, well
does.
it's
It kind
like
of looks like
yeah,
Disney World.
it's like
Yeah.
Yeah,
very plasticky.
it's like theme
It's
park.
not lived in. It's not like everyone feels like they just got there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And like it hasn't existed. Like that's the thing with like the Harry Potter. Like it's like the same thing where like they go to the school, they everyone gets introduced, the headmaster and all like the teachers get introduced and all. It's like the same thing. But it feels like when you watch that first Harry Potter movie, like oh these guys have been here for like years and like the
Yeah.
school has existed. The what is it called? Shiz. It feels like they just propped it up for the movie. It
Yeah.
feels
also, what a terrible, I know this is not like a
shiz.
movie thing, but what a terrible fucking name.
Yeah.
Uh,
It's
That would
bad. It's really
that's something that
bad.
would be funny in the musical and not
yes,
in
yeah,
the movie.
that's the thing.
But
Like, really
like
is.
like in the musical, I'd be like, oh, okay. Like,
No, it's like you can get away with so much more in a musical. Not even get away, just like different things work in a
yeah.
musical, right? And also part of it is that the tone that this movie achieves. Um, it's like not silly enough for how silly everything is, you know?
Yeah.
yeah.
Because also the movie's about racism. Well, the musical is about racism, right? So it
Mhm.
can't be like too ridiculous.
Right.
Yeah.
But also I don't know.
That's why I
But
liked
it's weird.
Ariana
Yeah, it's so
Grande
weird
so
tonally.
much because I feel like she kind of nails the tone that I want the movie to
Yeah,
be.
Mhm.
sometimes it feels like she's in a different movie because of how she's kind of her mannerisms, and I guess it is kind of the character to kind of be different, but it is on like a different level than everyone else, and there seems to be some kind of confusion of what movie everyone's in at sometimes.
Yeah.
But I
Ariana
think she is
Grande
great. I think she is great.
well, the two leads are good.
Yeah, I think they're both great, but like for different reason. I think Ariana Grande is just very much like that's the character that I want in this movie. Like I want everybody else to be like matching that character's vibe.
Yeah.
She
No.
is Ariana Grande is an interesting casting because she is so different from the character in The Wizard of Oz and also like the actresses that usually play this character on Broadway. There's usually like a
Right.
really explicit kind of like southern tone that directors and actors go for with this character, and Ariana Grande can't achieve that because that's just
Yeah.
not like how she is in real life. Um, so it's just like it's interesting that she was cast. Obviously, she really wanted this role, and she is, one of the 50 most famous people in the world probably. So
Yeah.
like that goes like
Probably even
that's a
go
part of
lower
it.
than 50.
Yeah, but I don't. Yeah, but you know
Yeah,
what I
sure.
mean. It's
Yeah.
like
Well, ballpark.
And
Yeah.
talk about like stunt casting marketing, because this has turned into like a
yes,
Stan war with fucking with some
yeah,
other movies. Like
that's what
this
I
is
think. I think it's stunt casting a little bit, but
yeah, I
she's really
mean
talented. She's super
yeah, no,
talented.
it's stunt casting that
Yeah.
it works, but there is a level of like this. It makes a movie that was already gonna be popular way more popular.
Popular.
Yeah.
um, but yeah, I mean, I think that there's yeah, we talked about Michelle Yeoh and Jeff Goldblum,
Yeah,
but I
we
think
should talk
everyone
about
else.
both the leads, I think, because
I think
like
everyone
they're
else is yes.
Yes, it's Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo.
yeah.
Um, Before we talk about the performances in the movie, this press tour has been like
Yeah.
generationally delusional. um,
Yeah. We should hold
eh,
space for the press tour.
well, we work in queer media,
Yes.
so um,
Would you say that? Would you say that we work in queer media?
I just did.
He just
Um,
did.
Right, sure, but
it's
Put that on
it's
our
funny
bio.
because this is like probably the biggest film like movie press tour where the leads are just both kind of like theater kids, and they're not anything else, they're just theater kids, so it's so.
you know
And
what I will
also I
say
think
though?
they might be insane, they think they both might be crazy people
Yeah.
actually.
What I will say though is that that clip that is now like making the rounds
Yeah.
is kind of like I think the first part of this press tour that I've seen. Like the movie has been so good at advertising
Oh,
that I
there's
haven't
so
like
much I've
I've seen
seen.
so many clips. I've
I
seen
haven't
so many
really
clips
seen
of
that. I've seen so much
Cynthia
I've seen so
Erivo and
much
Ariana
like
Grande looking ridiculous.
advertising, but I feel like I haven't seen like them doing interviews a lot. I don't know. Like
I've seen like 5 different clips of them in a press junket crying.
I have not seen a single one of those. I've
Yeah,
seen
no,
I've seen
I'm not
everywhere I
joking.
go, I
Like,
see like Wicked ads. Like there is like
Yeah.
and even like they play it before the movies, but even when they do that, they're like playing clips from the movie and whatever. And like everything everywhere you go, there's like a Wicked themed thing. But that has been for me like how I've seen the movie get sold. This was the first time I saw a clip of them like doing an interview. I don't think I've seen a single
No,
interview
I've
from
seen
them.
a
Maybe I just
bunch.
haven't
I've seen
clicked on
so
them. I've
many.
seen them like in my YouTube recommended, like them like talking with John M. Chu or whatever, but like I don't think I've watched a single one until this clip started going viral.
I don't
No,
even know
Ariana
where I'm
Grande,
seeing. I probably on Twitter. That's
yeah, on
really probably
Twitter.
where I'm seeing
Yeah.
them.
Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo, they have a lot to say. They've been
Yeah.
talking
Do
a
they?
lot on the press tour, and it's like, but it's a lot like it's a lot like it's like insane person like theater kid mind stuff where it's like, this is so special, I can't believe I did this, this changed my life,
Right. I
like
do
I
remember
am
seeing the
literally
thing
in love with
with the
everybody that works.
poster when Cynthia Erivo
Oh
posted on
yeah.
like her Instagram story about how like people were talking about the poster like covering
Well,
the
because they
face
like
or whatever.
photoshopped her.
Yeah, because they
Yeah,
photoshopped like a version of it where you could see her face or something,
Where
well,
you
it's,
couldn't see,
you
right? Where you
couldn't
or
can't
where
see
see
you
her
her
couldn't
face
see it.
face.
Okay.
Yeah,
because
she
to mimic the
Right.
Broadway
Yes, to
I
mimic
don't
the
want to
original.
totally invalidate her feelings because there is like like
Yeah.
the word she used where it was like, don't erase me, right?
Right.
It's like that is those are feelings that an actress in her position should
Yeah.
have, I think. But also I legitimately think that she is an insane person, and not only her, I also think Ariana Grande is an insane. I think that these are two, like, both of our leads are actually crazy people that
Yeah.
with something wrong with them.
Speaking of, what was the vibe like in your theater? Like in your
Empty.
showing?
Mine was
a
empty.
lot of
Empty?
like little
Hmm.
girls.
You went to an empty theater for
I
Wicked?
saw it fucking like
Omaha is
10
crazy,
a.m.
bro.
So like
Omaha
10
is
a.m.
crazy.
Yeah.
No,
I
mine
guess
was like a
that
bunch of young people. Eh,
interesting.
Yeah,
Not empty. There were like 10 people in my theater.
it was pretty
But
packed.
like,
Yeah,
I
mine
was
was
like,
very
there was
theater
there
kiddie.
was
Like there was people walking in and I
were
just
there
like you
people
would
singing?
No, nobody was
no.
singing. I don't
Okay.
think you're allowed to until the singing screenings happen.
Well,
Yeah,
I
they,
just
they get like shot.
yeah, there
No,
are
but like I
people that
heard like
have.
theater I
A
saw on
guy
Twitter
comes
that
in
like
and fucking
theaters
beats you up.
No, I saw on Twitter that theaters were putting up signs not to sing during the movie
Yeah,
because
but
the
what did you think
because
they
the theater
do?
kids are like showing up in groups and singing.
Well, that's a problem with like it's like if they like released the scripts out before the movies and everyone came in and started like reading them as
Yeah, well, it's the wouldn't the problem be that if the theater kids start singing during the movie that all the songs are like cut off by by like tons of dialogue?
yeah, they'd
They would
be
just have
like
to keep
they would
stopping their songs
struggle.
to listen to the dialogue in the movie.
Yeah, well, I wonder what they think about that specifically. Like that
Yeah.
one specific part of the movie where like it's like there is that element of it's like damn, we're like hopping around.
Yeah,
Or
it's
like
like,
we're
why are we
taking a while to
talking
get
so
back.
much?
Did the
It's
song like and you never like kind of feel the music because it keep getting cut off.
yeah.
I don't know. What do you guys think about the music specifically in the movie?
I was just gonna ask that. I like the music.
I've been aware of I think I've
No, I
performed some of this music before.
Oh, you mean
but
So I
in the movie, like
specifically in the
specifically in the
Oh,
movie,
movie.
how it's
not
performed in
like
the
not the
movie. Okay.
music
I
itself.
see. I see. Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I
Like, how
don't
do you think it worked in the
I
movie?
don't love it in the movie. I like the songs themselves, but like the actual musical numbers and
Mhm.
like how they look,
Well, that's a
not
big
my favorite.
part of
It's
it.
the energy's kind of missing, I think. It's not
Yeah.
it doesn't really look as good as I would want a movie musical
Yeah.
music number to look.
I think our performers, specifically Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande, sang the songs very well,
Yeah.
obviously. Like, I think that John M. Chu does not have the fucking
Yeah.
he does not have the vision to fucking block these people.
He did when
Yeah.
Step Up 3 came out though.
But
Something
But
happened
that's a
between
it's
then and
dancing
so
now.
focused
small. It's
movie.
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
it's like this is so
It's a
grand.
movie about breakdancing, you know? This is
Yeah.
Yeah.
like this is not a
That was
movie
my
about
thing. It was like
breakdancing.
No, I know.
I heard the kind of snippets for the trailers and clips and stuff, but I wasn't familiar with like the music as a whole. And I was like, oh, and I found myself, still there's like some songs just in my head over the past like days since seeing the movie. But when watching it, the energy isn't really there. It's like,
Yeah,
oh,
it's
this
like
song is,
gone.
you're kind of like recognizing, oh, this song is like, it's a good song, but you're not like in it because it's so like
Yeah.
disjointed and the movie you can't really look at because there's the one it's with Jonathan Bailey and they're in the library, and there's
Oh,
this like
Jesus
big
Christ.
fucking
Bro,
like light coming from the fucking window.
no,
It's
that is
so
actually such an
obnoxious.
egregious. No,
It's
that
like
musical number
really
is so
amateur.
egregious. Like literally so egregious because they built this fucking library set with like this
Mhm.
actual like real life like
Yeah,
turning fucking
it's
library
really
wheels
cool.
and
It's a
shit.
really cool set.
And it feels like the only thing the fucking DP did to light it was stick a big ass fucking floodlight behind the library set. And I'm like,
Yeah.
dude, this is
Yeah,
crazy.
And what I was saying is that it's like because more often than not, when there's an issue like that and people are still loving a movie, then it's like these people aren't really paying attention to something
they
like
don't
that.
care.
But I'm like, yeah, but this one is like it's like so obnoxious
It's
that
bad. It's
you
like
can't miss it.
egregious.
It's like you only look at it,
Yeah.
even if you could show somebody who's watched like two movies in their life this movie, and they would be like, why the fuck does it look like that? Like they
Yeah.
would still be confused. But then my understanding, at least just based on what I've seen, is that most people are just choosing to ignore it because they still just like don't care because they like it
Well, we have
anyway.
friends. We have friends that are like, "Oh my god, the lighting is so bad, but 4 stars. It's
Yeah, I
great. I
know. I
love
mean, a
this
lot of
movie."
people I
You
know
know?
Yeah.
like it despite it.
It
Which I guess
is
there's like for a lot of people there's a connection to the stage musical as well that like
yeah.
I don't think any of us have, and like stuff like that.
No.
Like like these things matter, obviously.
I'll
Um,
I'll say it. This is a Marvel movie. I think like while watching it I was thinking
Yeah.
this. I was like,
yeah.
this is a Marvel movie. It's
It's
different. It
like
is
a
in
Marvel
meaningful
movie
ways it's different,
musical.
but like it's
I think it
like,
has a
you
little
know,
bit more heart than a Marvel movie. There's like a
It's a
pulse.
bigger swing, I think, but I that lighting stuff is I can't think of a more egregious like thing in like a big like a movie of this budget.
Yeah.
Like that, it's like so like oh
no,
like
it's like the
It's like such a
editing.
miss. It really pulls you out of the
it's like
movie completely.
very like amateurish, and it's
No,
like
Yeah.
like the lighting in this movie, I think is comparable to the editing in like Captain America 2 or like the
like
Winter Soldier, where it's like
Bohemian
how some of that
Rhapsody or
fight scenes were
something.
edited, where it's
The
like,
fact that
okay,
you
this
just
is
like
like
had that ready to
Yeah,
go.
what the fuck?
It's
no, well,
like,
I've just been thinking about like this point where it's like that with like the how like the some of the how the action is edited and some of
Yeah.
the earlier Russo
yeah.
brothers movies are so it's like so like what, like, this is so poorly planned
That's my
out and like
problem with the musical
ridiculous.
numbers, like what you're saying about how, like, you just can't really, like the energy's not there. It's
Yeah.
like, my issue was that, like, stuff like that, like the lighting, it's, like, so bad that, like, you can't not focus on it. Like, I was so, like,
Mhm.
it stuck out so much to me that, like, I couldn't even, like, pay attention. Like,
Yeah.
I was looking at it for so long that I realized we were, like, halfway through a song, and I was like, "Oh, the song is happening." You
They
know what I mean? It's like, that's the problem. It's like, I get that it could work for other people, but for me, there's, like, nothing there because it's, like, so distracting that you never even, like, have the time to get that invested in the musical numbers, which is, like, obviously the most fun part about one of these movies, like.
the the scene where they're about to get on the train, and I there was a it was a big like highlight on like, oh, they built this train, like it's a really amazing practical train. That is one of the most ugly sections of the whole picture. Is it's like
Yeah.
they'll have like some close-ups of them, and then like behind them it's just like fucking like sludge. It's like really
Yeah.
bad.
The set photography of like on like whatever the
Mhm.
Variety or Vanity Fair, whatever photographer,
Yeah.
like on set for that train part, like taking pictures of the train that they actually built. The
Mhm.
train looks really good. I'm
It
like, oh,
looks
this is
really good.
crazy impressive. And then in the movie, it's like, okay, you didn't have to. This could have been a CG train. Like, who gives a
They
fuck? You
Someone
know?
needs to in like 10 years when all the smoke is blown over, they need to interview like the people who worked on the sets and like ask them, how do you feel about how this looks in the movie? Like, do you feel like the work you did on set for these things, is that, did you get what you
Yeah.
in terms of that? Because it's so sad, because that's kind of what we've been missing in like the culture in cinema and modern blockbuster cinema, is like we've been missing these kind of really big sets and the colors and all this, right? And they built them. They built the sets. They exist.
Yeah.
And like just like kind of like amateurish failure to kind of just capture these beautiful sets.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. It's
It's really
ridiculous. I
sad.
think it's
It's like it's
ridiculous.
impossible. I don't know how it happened. It's
I've been saying this. I kind of like was tweeting about this. I don't think anybody fucking thinks it's as interesting as I do.
Sure.
Whereas John M. Chu is the first bad director to make an Oz movie. And it took almost 100 years for this to happen.
Well, they're
Uh,
about to. Well, I was thinking about this too, because you remember when the director of Blackish was given the Oz remake. I don't know what's happening with that. Um, or like that was like really recent, because I remember when this happened, I like stitched one of George's videos about it, because he was like, "The Wizard of Oz sucks" or something. I was like, "What?" Um, but I'm like, they're supposed to there was like it's tough now, because I was, how are you gonna do this? If they're gonna do Wicked, and those movies are gonna make $1 billion, and then you're gonna remake the Wizard of Oz.
yeah. So it
But I was always like,
says Kenya Barris is making a Wizard of Oz
Oh,
remake.
Kenya
yeah,
Barris is the director of You People, the movie
Yeah,
with Jonah Hill and Eddie
yeah,
there
yeah.
Murphy.
hasn't been an update on this since January though.
Well, that's what's it's tough. Like, I
Yeah.
don't know how he does that, but also like that's something I was like, oh, this sounds awful. I was like,
Right.
how did he get the Wizard of Oz movie? But yeah, it is like there isn't like a billion of them.
No, but
But
there's
the
like
ones that do
enough. There's
exist
like
are like,
yeah.
it's a tough one too, though, because when you look at that 39 film, it's like, oh, this is like a perfect like Wizard of Oz movie. Like, it's like you don't want to.
Yeah,
So it's
the guy with Gone to the guy with Gone with the Wind made a fucking The Wizard of
yeah,
Oz, you know?
and so
Um,
much of that movie is tied to like kind of the technological advancements at the time. Um,
you
like
can
when they
make an
did.
argument the single greatest moment of cinema when she opens that fucking
Oh,
door.
well,
Yeah,
so they,
like
but
Yeah.
and I like I haven't seen it in forever, but I know and I'm not kind of praising this movie or anything, but the Oz Great and Powerful movie, it starts black and white, and then it does like it goes like wide, so it has like a aspect ratio change, and that's
oh,
like
that's
its kind
cool.
of
That's cool.
uh homage to the original film. But yeah, there isn't that many. It's hard to like be like, oh, I'm just gonna remake the Wizard of Oz. It's kind of it's tough to like kind of sell that. So Wicked naturally seems like a good place to be like kind of getting doing Wizard of Oz without doing it, right? You're getting the kind
Yeah.
of all the goodness of kind of remaking it, and the kind of the IP, right? But you don't actually have to technically be like, we're remaking it and we're gonna kind of step on those toes. We're doing our
Yeah.
own little thing here.
Well, there was a remake called The Wiz, starring Michael
Yeah,
Jackson, directed by
but
Sidney
that's
Lumet,
it's
which people
it,
say is really good.
Yeah.
it's different,
It
but
is different, totally
it
different songs. Yeah,
yeah. So that's why it's like it's you kind of have to do something different, right?
yeah.
And the Wiz is like kind of a different take. So I think that works. But it's tough. It's always tough to do like a remake of a classic like that. Like it's like there's like levels to classics. I feel like, and this is like it's a movie that everyone kind of knows about, even if you
Yeah.
haven't seen it. So even like the
It's a movie that's
iconography is
hard to
very
not see. Like, I just feel like at some point you
I think
watch it
that
as a
like
kid.
the Wizard of Oz, I think, was called the most seen movie ever
Yeah.
made.
Yeah.
Like,
Because it's like
but
it's kind of like a movie that's impossible to avoid. Like you
even
just
if
have
you
to.
haven't seen it, or even you've seen like once, right? The slippers, the scarecrow, the lion, the witch, everything like the Munchkins. It's all like very ingrained in like culture at this point still. Um, Actually, that's one thing. The Munchkins. What are we? The Munchkins are like 5'9" guy.
Yeah, the Munchkins are just people.
yeah, Ethan Slater, I think I like him as an actor.
He's like taller than Ariana Grande.
He's taller than I am, bro.
Yeah, it's like, well, I forget. I'm gonna forget the critic's name, but it was a funny like line in their review where he was like he was basically like, is this kind of I forget the word he used, but like, are we improving by just not hiring smaller people at all and just making the historically smaller people just taller now? Like, I don't know if that's like kind
Yeah.
of improvement. And it's weird. I don't know. It's tough because like they've kind of avoid like I know we recently we just got the trailer for Snow White, and they're like CGI, right? Or I forget. How did they do the what are they, the seven dwarfs? How
Did
many
they
are there?
show them in the
I'm gonna be honest,
trailer?
I haven't watched the trailer.
See, I like saw clips, so I don't really know.
I
But
saw one screen grab of it, like people talking about it, and I was like, I don't know if I need to watch this trailer. I think it's
it looks,
a
we
while.
talk about that trailer, that looks horrible. Well, so
Yeah.
I just saw like
There's
it's like
yeah.
super saturated, and it seems like almost in a response to like what's going on right here is like we're just gonna pump it up in
Well,
post.
the saturation, the streets are saying that that might be
A cam rip like at
yes.
the theater.
Yeah. So
That's kind
it's
of what
like
Wicked feels like. It feels like we're watching like a rip, or like a really weird rip. That's like this is off in like a weird way, where like it's like unnatural. There's the
Right.
big I don't know the song name, but it's with Alphaba, and she is like on her own, and she's kind of happy. She's very happy, and she's kind of like running around the school, and then she goes in like that big field, and it
Right.
looks
Oh, she's like
really bad in the
yeah,
field.
yeah.
There's a
Yeah.
lot. It's like it's rough, man.
Are there any like other like specific like plot detail, like story things you guys want to talk about before we talk about Gladiator 2? Because we just talked about a lot of like general stuff. I don't know if there's like
Yeah.
moments in the movie you want to point out or
so here's the whole story of the movie Wicked, right? So uh what's her name? Yeah, Alphaba gets born, right?
yeah.
And then we see that her dad doesn't like her and she has a sister.
Yeah.
Then Alphaba goes to college where
Well, she doesn't go to
she
college.
physically goes to the college.
Yeah.
and then
She's not
Michelle
attending. She's not planning on attending, but
yes,
she
but
goes
she
to the physical
physically goes to
location.
college. And then Michelle Yeoh is like, you have to attend, you have to
Yeah.
enroll in my class no
Yeah.
matter what. And then she's
And then
like,
Ariana
okay,
Grande is forced to be her roommate.
yeah.
Mhm.
And then and then you kind of just like skip an hour.
Yeah.
You meet
There's like
some guys.
they go to like a club. They like there's like
Yeah,
the under is it
they become
underwater? What is that
friends.
club?
Yeah. Um, Ariana Grande's like bullying her because she's a bitch, and then they become friends. And then
Yeah.
Goat
And she
violence.
get the hat, the hat
yeah,
part.
she gets the hat. And then there's goat violence, and then Alphaba's like, we have to go see the
Well, it's not
wizard.
quite just goat violence. It's like animal violence, but I
Animal,
guess the
Yeah.
like
part
Well,
animal.
they have the
the goat
little
is
lion.
prosecuted for being
There's
a
a
teacher.
lion in a cage.
Yeah.
There is, yeah.
And then Alphaba gets invited to go see the Wizard of Oz, and then Galinda comes with her to do that, and then they do that, and then Elphaba's like, does like how what has to happen in every Wizard of Oz movie where it's like
Yeah.
you're fake.
Wait a
Um,
second.
and then she gets her broom, and then the movie ends.
Yeah. No, that was actually pretty good.
um,
All right.
uh,
I guess
Oh,
that
that's
means
the whole story. That's what Ariana Grande
yeah.
said. Here's the whole story.
well, I guess like really before you see Elphaba be born, you see Ariana Grande go, "I'm gonna tell you the whole story now."
Yeah,
And then
they,
somebody's like, "Is it true that you were her friend?" And then the whole crowd is like, and she goes, "I knew her. We did cross paths at one point."
yeah.
It's like I was not friends with. Anyways,
You gotta cut that out of the pod. Gladiator 2 is Ridley Scott's sequel to Gladiator 1, or just Gladiator, I guess.
what if they called it Gladiator 1?
Like,
Like
like,
Rogue One?
like 20
Um,
years ago.
But this one famously has Paul Mescal in the lead instead, and rewrites some of the story of the first one. Well, I don't know. Did you guys? This is like a thing that like I keep hearing people talk about, and maybe I'm because you just rewatched the first one, and
Yeah.
it doesn't matter if we spoil the first one for Gladiator 2, obviously, but because hopefully people listening have watched the first Gladiator by now, but like in the first one, the relationship between Maximus and Connie Nielsen's character, whose name I'm forgetting right now,
Yeah.
like a lot of people are like, because obviously like in this movie now we find out that Paul Mescal is like his son or whatever, and people are
Yes.
saying it's like weird because he's the same age as Maximus's son, so that must mean that like Maximus had two kids at the exact same time. But a lot of people like have
You can
been
do that.
yeah, no, you can do that, but that's not what I'm referring to. A lot of people have been like, "Oh, this is like surprising because like their relationship isn't like in the text of the first movie." But like in the first movie when I
That
watched it, I'm
is.
like, I feel like it's pretty obvious that like they you know what I'm
Well,
right?
the kid's in the movie. He's in the first movie. I don't know what the problem is.
Yeah.
No, well, I
So
think
The kid is in the movie.
the scene. So there's a
but in the movie
flashback.
they don't say that it's his kid.
It is his kid though.
Yes,
There's a
but
It's like it's
in
very
the
like,
first movie they don't tell you that.
but it's
there's a
very like.
flashback in Gladiator
That's what I
2.
thought too, right? But other people, this is what I mean. It seems that other people's experience when they go back and rewatch the first one is that it's not implied that it's his kid. And in my head, this was like not a twist at all. I was like, I thought it
Well,
was very obvious.
I thought it was like that was the point.
I went into the movie thinking Paul Mescal was his kid.
Well, no, I mean the trailer gives it away that he is, but like
Yeah.
but I just mean like in the literal first, like when you
Well,
watch
yeah,
the
in the
first
first
movie,
movie, Lucius.
I'm like, oh, that's just his son, right? Like, I'm
Yeah.
like, isn't that's what I always
Well,
thought. That's
that's
before
why they're.
Gladiator 2 was even announced. That's what I thought was the case.
Yeah.
And then I'm
Yeah.
confused because it
I
seems
don't
like a
know.
lot of people think it's like I just wanted to make sure that you guys felt the same way because
I
I
want to
kept getting
throw it out
confused
there.
listening to people say that.
The first Gladiator, it's kind of a bad movie, like a little bit.
Jesus
If
Christ.
you've been
I was
seeing, if
okay.
you've
This is
been
where
seeing, there's some clips floating around, and that's one of the big problems with the first one. It's like it is really weirdly edited.
yeah.
And there's like the scene of like where he like headbutts the guy, and like this is like not possible, like the way
Yeah,
that
he's
they
like on
cut
his
the
knees,
movie.
but he headbutts him, so it's not yeah, who
Yeah,
cares?
no,
Well,
but
who
it's
cares?
more
Is
like
that it looks
bad.
bad.
It's
It
like
looks
bad
bad.
editing.
I just
That's
say
Who
why
cares?
the second one is edited a lot differently than the first movie.
yeah.
Yeah, no.
It's just because Ridley just does everything differently now, like just the way his whole process
Right.
is like differently.
Yeah,
And you're
Ridley
bringing
also
back
has 100 cameras that all cost $10 million each,
Yeah.
rolling at
Yeah.
the exact same time.
Yeah, and
Um,
the same cinematographer as the first one, but it's a different kind of look to it for sure.
Well, he's a same person, but like different guy because it's 20 years later.
Yeah,
you know?
for sure. It's
Yeah.
I
yeah,
mean,
change.
I remember I think it was about Alien, but I remember really talking about like just like yeah, that was so long ago, like seven. I don't know when he said it, but like it's a completely different filmmaker. And speaking of Alien, I guess it was important for Ridley, and he said this that like with Blade Runner and Alien, like he did not get to make direct sequels to those movies, and those kind of like got away from him. And he eventually went back and made the Alien prequels, but he wanted to make Blade Runner stuff, and he
Yeah.
kind of had to make a
He wanted
choice.
to do 2040, like he wanted to do that script. He wanted
Well,
to
the
just direct
problem,
that
yeah, the
movie.
problem is he basically had to choose. He was like, okay, you either do Covenant or you do Blade Runner 2049, which is ridiculous. They should have just let him do both. I don't know why. But he had to choose, and he ultimately was like, okay, I already did Prometheus. It makes sense for me to continue doing this, but I would like to do both, right? So with Gladiator 2, it's like, okay, this is another one of my things. Like, I don't want someone else to do this movie.
Yeah.
This is my thing. I want to be able to do a sequel to my movie. Um, and so this is his only direct sequel in his filmography.
Uh, it's interesting. Ridley Scott, he could be seen as kind of the journeyman, right? Like you could
Yep.
kind of interpret his career like that. I don't think that's a very appropriate interpretation of his career, but he has so much ownership of every fucking movie he does, even if you're like, oh, this is just like a studio Glub Shido thing, like The Martian or whatever. He
Yeah.
has so much ownership over everything he does, and he cares so much about all of his movies.
It's different than like a journeyman because a lot of the times, like, you're kind of the process is like he's not getting like offered like, hey, come do this thing. It's like he's like, I want to do this thing and I'm gonna do this. Like, it's like it's not really it's he's picking everything. It's like, or he'll like be like, hey, guy that I like that write this script for me, or like come
Yeah.
help me write this alien script. And like it's a lot of his ideas, so it's less than like a guy just like directing spec scripts or like just like scripts that studios give him. It's a lot more like he's kind of in it from the jump with that kind of creative
No,
vision
I agree. I
behind it.
don't think he's a journeyman. I agree. Like, yeah.
But he has like those vibes in a way, but it is like
Yes. Because
just different.
he's all over the place.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it's like, yeah, I'm gonna do Gladiator, then I'm gonna do this Bee Gees movie. Like
Then I'm
it's
gonna
like,
do this
what?
original Cormac McCarthy script.
Yeah, yeah, and then like, hey, I'd like to do a musical and a western and a horror movie
That's
and
imagine what if Ridley Scott directed Wicked?
well, I actually I that is like a thing. That is like a thing. I was like, I thought of it, and I was like, there's just like a level of like he doesn't have to give a shit about anything, but just like him like structuring everything and like having his like 10 cameras flying around. It would have like that's just
It'll
kind of what
look
you're
better.
missing because it's so jarring going from Wicked to Gladiator because of how good Gladiator 2 looks. It's a very
No, Gladiator 2
stunning
looks
fucking
so
movie.
good. It looks so good. Okay, Gladiator 2. It
Yeah.
is a sequel to Gladiator.
I wanted to start by talking about Gladiator
Yes,
because
yeah,
that's like
sorry.
Okay.
the
Sorry.
natural
We got
place
lost.
to. Yeah, we did get lost a little bit.
No,
And
I
Doug
mean
already
these are all
Doug already
important
said he
things to
doesn't
bring
like
up.
Gladiator, so I guess Owen,
Well,
you can talk
that's
about Gladiator.
it's I think it's fine. Like it's not like the worst movie ever. I think it's a weaker Ridley Scott movie. Um, and I found it interesting, and it's almost and I think the second movie just there's a lot like of things where they're like, hey, this is an iconic thing, and we're not gonna try to be like just try to get some guy to do like that again. So we're
Yeah,
gonna take like a kind of left turn. And I think where Gladiator 2 works for me, where Gladiator doesn't, is a lot of those left turns are like interesting in conversation with the other movie. And it's a very interesting like companion piece that does a lot of like really smart stuff that I don't think it's getting its credit for because a lot of people are just like, hey, this is like fucking Force Awakens like sequel slop. And I think there's a
It
lot of like
is.
real it is. Is that what
It
you're saying?
is.
It is.
Yes.
I think it's
But
more. I think it has more like kind of. There's more. The choices I think are more interesting. I will say. Yeah, it's like it's a sequel like big Hollywood tentpole thing, but I think there's really interesting creative decisions that make it separate from that at least for me.
I understand the Force Awakens is one that people like to throw out because the Force Awakens is just total retreading of the first Star
Mm.
Wars film, with just a new cast. I think this is not like that. Despite what some people might say, I think this is really Gladiator Maverick. Like it's like Top Gun 2, but like
Sure.
Gladiator. Which
Yeah, but
also,
yeah, that's different than the Force Awakens.
yeah, but which also
yeah,
people like might have an issue with. But I think this works because I don't know, man. Every single performance in this movie is so fucking sick, and the movie looks so good, and the action is so fucking like awesome and well edited, and like looks
Mm-hmm.
nice. Um,
yeah,
there's listen, Paul Mescal. he's not a movie star like
Mescal.
Russell Crowe is. He's not. He's not. No, he's not. But you know what?
No.
This this role doesn't demand that. Like this
Yeah.
character doesn't demand that, I think. Uh
Yeah, well, that's been like a big thing, and you see a lot where people are like, he's miscast, he's miscast. And a lot of people, I think a lot of people are naturally like, if Gladiator never existed, no one would say that, because it's naturally like, you're like, okay, this is what Russell Crowe did in the first movie. He does a lot of yelling, right? He does a lot of yelling. And then when Paul Mescal yells, but he doesn't yell in the same kind of way, people are like, oh, he's not able to do it, right? That's not what he's like a different guy. Like he's like it's like not he's not trying to do that. It's a different role, and it's a different kind of performance, I think. It's tough because like it's very, you have that kind of retread where he's doing like a lot of the similar things as the father, as Russell Crowe, but his character is a different character. So he's not asked to do different things performance wise, even if he's doing similar things script wise. There's like a different thing going on there where he's just a different guy. And I think it's kind of, I was always like, oh, this is an interesting jump for him because he was doing the indie things, like he was, After Sun and all those strangers and very different movies and normal people. And to do the jump, it was like, oh, this is interesting to see how this works out. But when I watched the movie, I'm like, oh, this makes so much sense as casting, because what he's being asked to do is very kind of, in the grand scheme of things, very small and emotional and kind of internal, rather than like big movie star kind of thing. And he does really great in the action scenes and when he's asked to do those things, but it's a less of a kind of a movie star role somehow in this big thing than like it's a smaller role. And I think kind of, I talked about it in my review, but I think when you have Denzel and you have Denzel across him being really big and theatrical, then you have Paul who's doing the more like emotional internal stuff. You have this really great contrast where it's like it wouldn't make sense to have someone really big against it. It's like that's not, in terms of like balance, it doesn't really make sense to have two guys who are really kind of broad and theatrical next to each other in that way. And it makes them, characters have to be different people. Not everyone can do like the Marvel thing where everyone's kind of doing the same thing. There's just 8 of them. You have to have balance and differences between your characters and your performances. So I think, yeah, I don't know. The miscast is kind of confusing to me, but it makes sense in terms of like, if you're just like being like, oh, he doesn't do what Russell Crowe did. And then that's kind of like the point.
I think my hot take is that the reason why people think it's a miscast, or I don't, obviously I don't think Paul Mescal's miscast
Yeah.
because duh, but like the reason why this even happens, I think, is because the biggest issue with the movie for me is that the script's just not that good, and I think
Explain why you think that.
so I think that parts of the script make it so that make people think differently about the performances. There's like one of like Paul Mescal's like best traits is that you can like, famously people have referenced the fact that he plays the same character in a lot of movies, right? He has like this like deep sadness to him and stuff.
Yeah.
And like it's in After Sun, it's in Normal People, and like you kind of like know what he's thinking all the time without people saying it. There are like literally scenes in the movie where like Denzel Washington will describe him and he'll be like, "You have a rage inside you." It's like you don't need to do that. Like it's like that's just like Paul Mescal's gonna like do that for you. And when you describe the character in a certain way that like forces people to think one way about the time, because like you said, like you were like, oh, he doesn't yell like the way that like Russell Crowe would yell. It's like, yeah, but they're describing him as a guy who does. and so
Sure.
then and so then that's the problem. And that's why people think it's a miscast, because they think he's playing a different character than who the character should actually be. And the best version of the script would lend itself perfectly to Paul Mescal's performance. And I think like somebody like Denzel, obviously this stuff doesn't matter for. I mean, Denzel probably even gets to edit his lines so that he could say exactly what he
Yeah,
wants
what if
because he's
Denzel put that
Denzel.
shit in there?
So like, no, but
Well,
really, it's like Denzel could so work against like a bad script, and I don't think that the script like helps a lot of these people. Like, even Pedro Pascal, who I have always liked in the past, and who I think is good in this movie still, because I like when he's on screen. His character is like, it could be written better. Like it just could, there could be more there. And that's like not Pedro Pascal's fault. Like, and it's the same situation. I think if the script was like really, like, I think if the script was better, this is like a knockout of a movie. Like, this is like best movie of the year kind of thing. Like, everything else works for me, at least, really, besides some like some of that stuff. And like, like
So
sequel stuff that is like, well, that's part of
when
the script
you
though.
say the script, are you talking like explicitly about like dialogue, about like the words that our characters are saying in these situations they're in, or
I
like
think I think both. I think it's both dialogue and plot. I think like there is like I don't know, and maybe you guys didn't feel this way because, and I felt this way less when I watched the movie the second time. But there is like, and I don't know how exactly you fix this. It is like it is just like for me like a structural issue, and I don't know. Like somebody would just have to write the script in a way where it doesn't feel like this. But when you watch the first Gladiator, you like you like feel like he has to like do this and this and this to survive. And in this movie, you just like kind of never like Paul Mescal just kind of like gets places really fast. And there's like the work that goes into it the first time around does not feel like the work that goes into it the second time around.
well, Russell Crowe
He
didn't have a Denzel Washington,
no,
you know?
sure, but
And
like
yeah, fucking
that's
Bill,
no, I
Bill
know that's like
Jackson in his corner.
sure, that's like part of it, but like that doesn't like remove it from like how like the story move. It's like it all just like feels very convenient. It's like he bites a baboon and then he's like fighting in front of the kings already. Like he already meets them so early on, and then like it's like and then he's just like in the arena, and then most of the movie is in the arena, and so like it
I
feels
think
like it doesn't
that
move
jump
right.
makes sense though, because we immediately click it, like we click we click so quickly that Denzel is a very powerful person in this world that we're watching, you know?
Yeah.
And like and Palm
The
was
movie's
just like
kind of about him,
right
yeah.
place, right time.
Yeah,
Like
and it's like he's being used, and he's like Denzel wants him in there as fast as possible, and I think
Yeah.
that's kind of a way to make it like you're still kind of doing the first movie, but like we kind of want to get to the different stuff faster, so there is kind of
Yes.
that like let's get going here,
I'm not
and
denying that,
I
like,
think it
for
does
me, it
make
works.
sense.
I thought it was fun, but, like, this is, like, stuff that I think, like, fundamentally alters how people look at the performances and why people because even what I'm saying is what would make people think that this performance is distinctly worse than Russell Crowe's, because Russell Crowe has a journey that Paul Mescal doesn't. And you believe it, like the emotions, like you believe them more. And like this time around, it's like the Paul Mescal, like, losing his wife thing is like that happens the first time around. So like
Yeah,
you know what I mean? So it's like the like a lot of the stuff that is the same about this movie works against people liking Paul Mescal and like why they would compare him to Russell Crowe. And then on top of that, the stuff that I said about the dialogue. Like I just think there's like stuff where I think he's good in the movie and I like it. And I even like am fine with the way the story goes because of like the places that it goes to that are different. But I could like very clearly see why people would are like set up to like the performances less than in the first movie or whatever, or compare them or whatever, or why like it's kind of like they're just like setting Paul Mescal up for failure. Even though he ultimately is like awesome in the movie.
yeah. I
And
mean,
he
it's
has like so many good moments. Like there's like the stuff with him and what's his name? The like medic or whatever. It's
yeah,
like
yeah.
the most charming shit in the world. Like when they're like just talking, like I'm like Paul Mescal is so good in those scenes. Like it's like that's the kind of stuff like all the like just one-on-one conversations that he has are just like perfect for him. Like you believe it totally. And then like it's just like the big stuff that I think like him like you said, like him screaming or like doing like speeches or whatever that like just like doesn't, but that's the first movie and that's the problem is like the first movie has this like like it's like one of the biggest moments like ever when he takes the mask off and like tells you who he is, and it's like this big moment. So it's like as soon as you do speeches in this movie, there's
yeah.
no way people aren't going to
It's
think about that. You know what
yeah.
I mean? So it's like all the things that are the first movie are just setting him up to look like a worse performer than Russell
Mhm.
Crowe, I think. And that's like, it's
He's
just
not the
different.
goat Paul Mescal is not the goat of giving. Russell Crowe's like the goat of giving a speech, though. It's
Sure,
like
yeah. I'm not saying
it's
I'm not saying he isn't. I'm just saying like these are the things. Like this is why people think he's worse than he is. I don't think he's bad. I think there are like a number of reasons why people would feel that way. And they're not right because it's a different performance, but it is like very clear on paper why it's not working for people. And I wish it wasn't the case, but like and I don't have that problem with it because I was just gonna like Paul Mescal in this movie no matter what. So like I went into it knowing that like all the little things were gonna charm me, and like I was totally every time Paul Mescal fights in this movie, I'm like so into it. I think he's awesome. Like I think like the action stuff works great as well. Like
the
I
action is so
totally
good.
yeah. Like it's fucking awesome. I mean, there's like we
There's
could talk about
sharks.
like yeah, we could talk about like the specific like battles, I guess. I really like the baboon thing early on. Like as soon as he does the thing where he like kind of like is like imitating it, I'm like, oh, this is
Yeah.
fucking I'm like, he's awesome, dude. Like
Well,
it's so cool.
it's a great start to kind of show his kind of upbringing being, not the craziest, like, just how he kind of interacts with the baboon, like, on this kind of ground battle. Yeah, no, that one's really cool. I like the kind of like it's fun to have him just like on the ground and then you just like cutting to Denzel. Like it like reminded me of like Megalopolis where they're
Yeah.
like doing it's like obviously you're doing like a similar thing in the arena with the cutaways. But it's like having Denzel do that is kind of brilliant. Even I mean they do it obviously when they're in the bigger Coliseum and you have more people to cut away to.
Yeah.
But um yeah,
Yeah.
I mean the water stuff was really cool, the shark stuff. Yeah,
I was gonna
all
go
of
in order because I think the fight after where it's just like the one-on-one fight in front of like the kings,
yeah.
that shit like I wanted to jump out of my seat when I saw it. I was like, this is fucking awesome.
Well, it
Like,
was it all it was such a good that was such a good character moment too because
yeah.
he so clearly is like dude like they don't deserve either of us to die here. Like this is not
That's one of the
like
things I like about
and
this
then he's
character
like
so
I
much.
don't
Yeah.
there's so much of him it's like I don't want to be doing this, but if you are forcing me to, I will kill anyone. But like it's like I don't like this is not what I believe. Like this is there's even like with Pedro that whole sequence is really fascinating, especially like the way that builds up to
That's
I
the part I
really
wanted to talk
like
about.
I really like how in the movie they make it really clear that Pedro Pascal is better at fighting. His character is better at fighting than Paul Mescal's character. Like
yeah,
if
Yeah.
fuck those guys up. They destroy his whole army.
yeah, like if Pedro Pascal's character like actually had to fight, he just would have killed Paul
Yeah.
Mescal. Like it's
Yeah.
like he beats him in the fight, like really or before right he was
He
beating him right before
he
he
beats him up and
surrenders.
then he literally
Yeah.
yeah, that's such a beautiful kind of moment because you have the general who just knocked out all of his those guys and he killed his wife, and then the whole reason Paul's even there really is because of him, and he really like he tries to shoot him. There's a one moment when tries to shoot him straight up, and there's so much all that rage, or not all of it, but there's so much of that rage that is talked about is towards Pedro Pascal, and there's this really kind of tender moment where they're both kneeling down, and and no, it's a really kind of strong piece that like steps makes this separate from anything that like I don't know. I you almost wish you get more of that, but it's kind of impossible in the way that it works. Because
Yeah.
but that like kind of one moment and goes by so fast when they're both kneeling, and then he gets fucking shot like a million times in the back.
That's what I wish I
It's like
got more
really
of
like heartbreaking.
because the like the plan to overthrow Rome thing
Mhm.
that is like also part of the first movie is
Yeah.
obviously like it's like set up and then it fails,
Hmm.
and then so this time around when you get to that point where you're like, oh, Pedro Pascal's not the bad guy and he is like the part of the story that is doing the same thing as the first movie where it's like setting it up and then it fails. I know there's technically like not anywhere else it could go, but like story wise, I wish it didn't do that. Like I wish it wasn't like set it up and then it fails so quickly. Like I wish he actually didn't just get killed right in that moment because that's like that was really I think probably the biggest thing that they copied from the first movie that I wish they went in a different direction on. specifically because like I would that interests me a lot. And I know that that's probably not the, I guess, common sentiment when you're making like a big action movie like in the Coliseum, is like nobody wants to hear about like, nobody wants to go on like a 30-minute detour about like the plotting of like how you're gonna like plan to overthrow Rome or
Yeah.
whatever. But like but
Well, in
like
a
to me
4-hour
that would have
director's
been an
cut, maybe we'll get that.
no, but that's what I mean. It's
And
like that like kind of thing where like it's like them talking in rooms like kind of like hidden while they're still like
Mhm.
there, you know what I mean? Like they're like they have to like hide in the tunnels in the rooms where like they can't be found and they have to like conspire. Like that shit would be so interesting to me. And that would like, you don't even really need to add layers to Pedro Pascal's character. If that was just like part of the story and you got to see
Yeah.
him do more of that, I think his character would work so well. Like I wish that that was like a bigger part of the movie.
Yeah,
And obviously
I
like then it has to be a 3-hour movie, but I would so
yeah.
gladly watch that. Like that would be
I
so
really liked him, and I mean, he does a lot of TV stuff, and, like, anything I've really seen him in, I've not really been crazy about him, but I think when I talk about Denzel being this kind of performer and Paul Mescal being a different type of performer, I think there's, like, some Pedro felt somewhere in the middle, like,
right.
tonally, and I like, that's why he was, like, in the between. He was in the between sides, and there was something about his performance, and you have the twins, so I think the twins are really great. So the twins, it was, like, the same
I
thing
really like them.
with Russell Crowe. It was like, "Okay, you can't do Joaquin Phoenix again, right?" It's like, you just can't beat that, right? So let's have 2 guys instead of 1, and also 2 guys that are just, like, really weak, and you're like, "Oh, these guys are really good, like, performance, and they're really fun," but they're also, like, stupid kids. And there's it's
Yeah.
you know, there was level of that to Joaquin, but even here it's like, oh, these guys are like really stupid kids and like but I think it's like it's again you're going in a different direction than just trying to like do like Walmart Joaquin. And I think
Yeah.
those guys are really good. And I thought all the performances really meshed together. I wanted to go back just one kind of note on the scene where Pedro Pascal's character, the general, dies. That I really like Paul Mescal's speech in that arena where he dies and he's kind of yelling at the stands and he's like,
Right.
"This is how Rome treats its heroes," right? I really like that bit of like dialogue and the way that was performed because it's such an emotional kind of thing where it's like he the whole time he's trying to kill this guy, he's trying to kill this guy, and then he's like, "No, don't kill him," and then they kill him, and then it kind of I really like the like there's the images of you have these kind of guards in the Colosseum with like the bows pointed at like the just like civilians. It's really kind of twisted way that the whole like kind of system works there. I don't know. This whole section is really interesting.
Yeah, this is kind of unrelated, but I just like the thought just crossed my mind because I had seen more than one person bring this up, and I was kind of
Yeah.
curious because it's like, I guess something that I also feel a bit similarly about, which is like, did you guys think there was too many animal fights and not enough hand to hand stuff?
No,
Because
that's how it was.
sure, like, historically, whatever, but that's not like, Ridley Scott famously, like, a fucking accurate
No,
historian.
you're
No,
yeah,
you
yeah,
know what I
yeah,
mean,
yeah.
though, because it's like the hand-to-hand stuff is, like, so exciting and, like, emotional and, like, personal that, like, I almost wish maybe one of the things didn't so much involve, like, maybe, like, you get rid of, like, the rhino, for example, even though it's fun, and, like, do another thing where it's, like, people fighting hand to hand because that stuff is, like, so exciting to me, and maybe that is part of the reason why I like was saying the thing about how stuff comes too easy and there's like a little bit less tension than I wanted
Because you
because
think
like
rhinos are like lower comp, like
kind of because it's like
he's
I
like
don't know
he fought plumbers and
because like
shit.
I
no
think
because it's
that
like
there's like
you
a
kind of
good
like
variety, like
outsmart.
a fun variety.
No, I know. It's like variety, but it's like you kind of like outsmart animals in like a way where it's like you feel like a danger when it's just like two guys fighting with swords that you kind of don't feel like you always because it's so close and like so personal that like you feel like it's so and like you said, like it's like when he fights Pedro Pascal, you know that Pedro Pascal is like better than him.
Yeah.
And part of like the whole like being a gladiator thing is like there's like this mythology about that where like you think that they were like unbeatable, but at the end of the day, it's like you could just get unlucky and get stabbed with a sword. You know what I mean? Like that's way to me, that's like way scarier and more intense because like you never know. Like it's like you never know that like you
Well,
could just be
the
fighting guys hand to hand and then all
yeah
of a sudden someone stabs you in the neck and like you're not ready for it. In the same way that like you
was
couldn't prepare for an animal
there
fight.
was the baboons at the beginning, but the rhino had a guy still, right? And then
Sure.
the sharks had guys and they were on boats. Was there one where was it another one was just animals or
No,
was
it's
it
just
just
that there's a lot of animal and the sharks, I guess, like as much as the
it's
sharks
just
are a
like
cool idea, like they're just there to clean up the scraps, you know?
Well,
Like, the
that was
sharks aren't exactly
my
like
dad. I saw that with my dad, and he leaned over to me, and he was like, "This is kind of like old school King of the Hill, right?
yeah, it's
Because
like the
you're on the boat, right, and you're fighting the other guys, and if you get kicked off the hill, you're just getting eaten by
yeah.
a shark." Which
But, like, the
it was
sharks
like
aren't like part they're not, like,
no, they're just
jumping
like
over the boat and, like, scooping people
it's
off.
like you're
It's like they're
playing
just
like a
there.
Minecraft mini game, and if you fall in the lava, like that's basically like the sharks are like you like die, you
Yeah.
fall, you die.
But the
So it's like I don't know. I feel like one thing with like the rhino is like that just feels like a really big like
yeah.
task. Like it just feels like a bigger
No,
thing.
the movie feels huge. But you
And
get what I'm saying. I feel like the hand-to-hand stuff is always more intense for me. Even the sharks are like
the thing
they're
with
like
the
they're like the spectacle even though they're not the fight. You know what I
sure,
mean? Like, in that scene, the sharks it keeps cutting to the sharks and you keep seeing them eat people and they're like the spectacle, but it's like you're
I
just gonna get
think
eaten by shark. Like, it's like that's just you were
you
gonna
need
die
more
anyway.
script for people to fight. It feel like if I don't want to just see him just like because I like the element of him in front of the emperors and they're in this like a room and he's kind of like he doesn't want to kill him and there's a lot of like kind of narrative to that scene where if I don't want to see two guys just to fight, like
Yeah.
if it's gonna be like him fighting something just to fight something, I'd rather it be like something crazy. Where it's like if I'm gonna be that like with Pedro, that fight is there is so much narrative and kind of climax to that scene. So it is like a way to kind of spice it up to just add like different things in the thing.
Yeah.
So if it would be like a very traditional kind of hand to hand combat, you kind of do need more narrative backing to make it kind of
Sure.
like
I guess my
make any
complaint is just that
sense.
it looks so cool. Like, when the hand-to-hand
Sure.
stuff is so fucking awesome that, like, I'm just like, "Yeah, give me more of that." Even the battle at the beginning, like, even when it's, like, big groups of people fighting, I'm like,
Mhm.
"This shit rocks, dude." Like,
Well,
it's like, I
yeah,
want
you kind of
yeah, I want more.
I'd be interested because they talked about a 4-hour cut, and we're talking about a lot of things where like we just want to see more of all of
Yeah,
these different things, right? Because I saw I think Napoleon is good, but it was never a movie where I was like, oh, I need like 7 hours of like or 2 more hours of this
yeah.
because like
And
there
I
was
could
a
watch
director's
4
cut.
hours of this
But
movie.
this movie is like, oh, I could watch a lot more of this. So it is interesting because a lot of the stuff we bring up, it's like, oh, I really like this. I'd like to see more of this, right? So I
Yeah.
don't know.
So
It's interesting.
we have to talk about we have to at least address like bring up um the actress fuck, how do you say her name? May Calamaz?
Calamaway?
Calamaway.
Is that
How is that how you say that name?
Oh, I was just, like, taking a
Okay.
guess.
You
I
said
don't
it
know.
with such confidence. I was like,
Well, I've just, like,
um,
seen her name. I didn't remember what it was. That's what I remember
Wait,
it
how
being
did
in
you
mind.
say it, Doug?
Yeah, I think it's
uh,
May Calamaway, right?
Calam, Calam, Calamo. Sure, I guess that makes sense. Calamaway.
I could look up the
Uh,
pronunciation while you,
but
talk
yeah,
about it.
she was cut from the movie. And she was supposed to play, or I guess she just does, and the scenes just aren't in the movie.
Make
She plays
calamari.
Lucius's, Paul Mescal's, love interest
Yeah, well, so it's interesting.
that he meets in
It's
Rome.
tough to, and maybe that's more in the longer cut. The she was kind of I didn't really notice it, but people are saying like she was next to Denzel in some scenes, and she was kind of there was the connection there with Denzel, and then the possible. I don't think the movie makes any sense for Paul to have a love interest. That was just my kind of opinion, but
Yeah.
obviously, if there was like the reasoning for her being taken out of the movie is like sketchy.
Yeah, if we
Obviously, for like
find out that it's, like, what people are
it's for like
suspecting, then that's,
specifically
like,
because she
really
was pro
unfortunate.
Palestine, then like that's like
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
because
fucked
she's
Not
up.
just pro-Palestine, she is
she
Palestinian.
is
Yeah,
Palestinian,
but there
and
was
then
more.
people
Yeah.
are also kind of pointing to in the opening scene,
Mhm,
the Lucius like Paul Mescal's character's wife that dies.
mhm.
People are saying that is an Israeli actress, um,
Oh.
which is also interesting.
But I wish are they saying that like she would be in? Are they just saying that, or
They're
was like
just
she was gonna be
saying
in
that.
more?
I
More
don't. They're
okay.
just
She wasn't like supposed to
um
be in more scenes or something, or like she
uh.
No,
was like added
I
later.
mean, I don't think she would I don't what other scenes would she be
No,
in? She
that's what I'm saying. I'm like
dies, like, 5 minutes into the
I
movie.
was just wondering what people were saying. But
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. It's but I'm interested. Like, what do you guys think? Like, I was just like when watching, I was like, oh, it doesn't make sense for him, or like, where would you even put a love interest in the movie? Because it's
I
like
He's
think
in
the
jail the whole time. I don't know. Like he's in jail.
yeah, it's confusing. Well, especially well, because she's like related to Denzel Washington. She's like She
Yeah,
helps
that's what
him
I'm
or
saying.
something. She's like an assistant or whatever. I don't know what the fuck it would be like back then, but like that's essentially like her job. So like he would have proximity to her, I guess, when like he sees Denzel Washington, but it's not like what's he gonna do? Fall in love with her while Denzel Washington's there?
No,
And then
well,
like
apparently, like, in one of the scenes that was cut, they kissed, like, they filmed, like,
right.
yeah, so
Which
it's
makes
like
no
But I don't
sense,
it's
I
just
feel like.
confusing because, I don't know that it makes sense emotionally. Like, it's like because
That's the thing.
such a big part of, like, the emotional arc of the character is not just that he lost his wife, but it's that, like, he's grieving the mom that he didn't have who is, like, now back in his life as an
Right,
adult,
Yeah,
and it's
so
right.
like
why would he
it's like,
be
why would you even
falling
bring
in
in a
love
love
with
it's
some
like the and I guess the only argument you could make is if you don't think the Connie Nielsen stuff works, then you would prefer it to be a love interest, but I think that's, like, interesting enough. I don't know that you would it would make sense because then it's, like,
yeah,
too much, and then it really wouldn't be emotional if it's, like, all 3 of those things happening
well,
at once.
yeah, it ki like, it's like, what would be the point other than just, like, kinda throwing it in there? It's like, I don't know.
You know, the
But
only thing
maybe
I will
yeah,
say the only thing I will say is that the part of, like, the first movie, right, is, like, this idea of, like, the afterlife, right, and then he, like, finally and then they, like, bring it up again in this one, and so, like, his
yeah,
his wife is obviously, like, in the afterlife, and so if he was going to live at the end of this movie instead of, like, the first movie, then a love interest would be, like, the thing keeping him alive because he's not really interested in, like that's an interesting conversation to have is, like, when he gets to the end of the movie and he, like, unites Rome or whatever, it's like
yeah.
he's not a guy who, like, wants to be a leader. So it's like what
Yeah.
like, you know what I mean?
No,
So
a
it's like
love
the
interest would make
afterlife would
sense
make more
for
sense to
Gladiator
him.
3. It would make more sense for Gladiator
Yes.
3.
Because or even in this case is what I'm saying, because it's like, in the first movie, you wanna go to the afterlife because he wants to be with his wife, and it's like that
Yeah,
is still true in this case because Rome doesn't really give him anything that, like,
yeah,
the afterlife wouldn't, unless there is a love interest, I guess. Because his mom dies, spoiler, dies. So it's like, so then he really has no reason to stay alive instead of meeting his wife in the afterlife. So I
yeah.
guess in that sense, a love interest would work out.
It's
But
just
but
weird.
yeah,
It
I
feels
don't know.
weird when you're cutting from him, like, mourning his wife and then, like, going to the afterlife and seeing her
Exactly,
and
and then I don't know
also,
that I
like,
would
hooking up
believe
with
it.
some random person.
Then I don't know.
Yeah,
Then it would
it's just
feel like a cheap way to go against the first movie's ending because obviously you have to do something different from the first movie. You're not just going to make
yeah,
it exactly the same. Like you're so like if he was going to live instead, then just like throwing in a love interest after his wife dies to make
yeah.
him to like give him a reason to live would also still kind of feel like well they had to just keep him alive. You know what I mean? It's like I don't know. Because it really doesn't
Yeah,
that's what I mean, it really doesn't make sense because he has no reason to, like, serve Rome, like, he doesn't wanna do that. He's not gonna be, like, a senator, he's not gonna be, like he's
well,
not
it's
gonna
it
go
is
and
it's his
take
blood
Pedro
that is
Pascal's
more
job.
the it's like his blood right.
Sure, to be the he's, like, the prince of Rome, and, like, I guess he becomes king, yeah, it's his blood right, but, like, he doesn't wanna do that.
No, yeah, I know.
So it's like,
Yeah,
he doesn't wanna
it's
do that, he doesn't wanna fight wars because he's the victim of one, like, it's like there's not, like, a position that
sure.
exists in, like,
Yeah, I
in
mean
Rome for him to fill.
yeah.
So I don't know. It's that part is confusing to me, and that does go back to like the script being a little bit wonky. Is like I don't really know what it all means when we get to that point at the end, especially if you cut out the love interest, I guess. But I don't know what it would mean if you kept her. So I like
Yeah.
it's I don't know. It's like confusing. I think that's that's kind of my what I was saying before is like I don't love the script, and I think like it's almost like a movie that I just really like because it's so fun, and like Paul Mescal's so charming, and like it does all work because it's so entertaining for me. And it looks good and blah blah blah. But like I think if you think too much about that part and like the ending and everything, it's like does it all make sense? Not entirely.
I don't know.
um, but it's like fine. I mean, it doesn't like matter, but I don't know. That is like I guess a pretty valid criticism. I feel like because it is all ultimately not. It doesn't all come together very neatly. Um, but that's okay. I don't know. I thought the action scenes were so fun. I thought Paul Mescal was so good. We didn't really talk about Denzel Washington a lot. Like we said how good he was, but I don't like we didn't talk about like his character, I guess, or
Mhm.
like the story there. Um,
Yeah,
and
I he is
and
very
kind of like
interesting.
his rise
Uh,
and politics of it all.
the
Politics.
politics of it all.
Yeah, I mean that
Um,
scene is really funny when he says politics like that. I'm like, man, this guy is just one of the best. Like,
no, he's great. Obviously, I mean, like real movie
yeah,
star stuff going on in this movie.
it's hard to
Uh,
talk about stuff that is like so obvious, I guess, because it's like nobody's gonna come onto the podcast and just be like, yeah, Denzel, not really that good. Like, not,
Well, I
but
think it's so funny that there are people having issues with his like just the way he speaks because he sounds like Denzel, but the way that he is like phrasing things and kind of it's so like very like Shakespearean and it fits so well with like the tone of the film that like
'cause his tone like comedically matches the King's. Like they're like also doing the same thing. So
yeah,
it's like
it's I
Like,
don't know.
because the Kings have, like, those funny part like, the part where, like, he says something about, like, the what is it? He's like, the disease in his loins has, like, reached his brain or something, like, that stuff is funny as hell.
Yeah. No, I think his character is really interesting and I think him kind of playing these two emperors for fools and like kind of manipulating everything behind the scenes is really fun. Um yeah, I don't know. I don't have too much to say, but I think the fight at the end is really cool. Um I like the whole scene in like the water is really interesting.
Did people in your theater have a reaction when we spent a lot of time looking at Joseph Quinn's head that he cut off?
I think my dad did. I think my dad was like, "This is
oh, that
gross."
was real. I like that a
'Cause
lot.
But
yeah, well, because
He was
people, like, in
spinning
my
that shit around like it
yeah,
was
but because it, like, like, it's not gonna look like Joseph Quinn. So, like, because, like, you
it's not
see
his
so much
middle
of it
one.
for so long, it seemed like my theater was, like, just not they were like, "What the fuck?" Like, kinda like
Like a
both
negative.
times I saw it even yeah, like, kind of like a negative because, like, we stared at it for so long, and, like, when you stare at it for so long, you realize how fake it looks, but, like,
I like
that
how
doesn't
long they kind of held on it.
matter, but,
Because it
uh
is kind of very it's obviously kind of referencing, like, Roman sculptures and the way, like, he
yeah.
places it on, like, the fucking pedestal. It is a really strong image.
Yeah,
Um,
that's what I thought as well, but I could but it's, like, one of those things, like, the things that, like, an average theater
yeah, I mean, it's
will, like,
they did
groan
not
about.
actually cut Joseph Quinn's head
Yeah,
off for this movie. I'm
yeah,
sorry for everyone who thought that. Um, I think it works really well.
yeah.
I mean, that whole scene, I think when he anoints the monkey as like his first in command or whatever
It's
is really
very funny.
funny.
Yeah.
The monkey itself was
I
just
also
really
love the little,
fun.
like, thing between him and the one of the I guess he's, like, a senator, right? The dude who he's, like, betting with throughout the whole
Yeah,
movie,
and
and
he
then when they
finds
get
that.
to the end, he's like, "I own your house."
Yeah, that's just awesome, dude. That's so
That whole
funny.
when they're on screen together, it's like it's so every single scene they have together is so good, and the way he, like, every time Denzel, like, leaves and he's, like, all, like,
Yeah.
weird about it, it's
No, I
awesome.
kind of like, I love so much of it, but I kind of just want to go see it again just for like Denzel and all that stuff because it just that is just so much fun.
Yeah, and then it is kind of, like, even it is, like, interesting. I don't know if I don't think my theater reacted to it at all in, like, an intense way, but, like, Denzel's almost so likable in the movie that I feel like a lot of people might even be, like, upset when he gets killed at the end. Um,
Yeah, I well,
because
it
they might
comes
have
to
wanted to, like,
you
see him live, like, they might have wanted to see
spoilers.
him win because he's so charming.
it comes to you as like a really charming guy who's helping Paul, and you're kind of, oh yeah, I like this guy. This guy's funny,
No, he's
and
like
then
an evil politician.
well,
Like
Yeah, but, like, that
that's why
yeah.
he rises to the top is because he's very likable and
Right, and
charismatic, and
that
he
part
kind of
makes
can
it work
manipulate everybody.
more for me, like, it's like the fact that he's so good at playing somebody
Yeah,
so charming makes me want to see him die by the end because I'm like, if he wasn't as likable,
it's
then it would not
badass
work as
though.
well.
He like cuts his like forearm off. It's so
Yeah.
sick.
yeah,
Oh, that
like a
part fucking
Star
rocks.
Wars like lightsaber
Yeah.
like fucking arm cut off. It's really like
Yeah.
the movie is pretty violent. There's heads that are getting
Really
cut off.
violent.
It's a lot of like
When the guy gets nailed by the rhino horn and he goes, like, flying into a wall,
yeah.
like, that
Yeah,
shit is awesome.
there's some crazy shit going on in this
Yeah,
movie.
no, I mean, it's, like, bloody and intense and you really, like yeah, that was one of the things I
Yeah.
really liked was that, like, the action scenes are so violent. which is what you want. Obviously, it's like because that's part of the movie. It's like they even say it. They're like that all they care about is violence or whatever. He says something. He phrases it better.
Yeah.
But he's like the universal language is violence or whatever the fuck he says. Um,
Yeah.
and he's like, yeah, he's right. Like we do like that. Do we miss anything? I feel like we talked about most of this. I guess the only thing, if you guys want to mention, is like we kind of started the Gladiator talk by talking about like all of Ridley Scott without mentioning him specifically in regards to this movie because
Yeah.
you guys went off on that tangent. So I don't know if you want to talk about Ridley Scott as the director of
Who's
Gladiator 2
like
and not the rest of
the
his
old,
movies.
like 86-year-old Ridley Scott, Sir Ridley Scott.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Sir Ridley Scott.
Um, yeah, really special as like he has kind of figured out and cracked the code of like how can I make really good movies like as fast as possible, but also like with such great attention to detail in the way that like he's storyboarding everything, right? He's
Right.
storyboarding everything, and he's like, yeah. So I storyboard everything so I know where to put 11 cameras in 11 minutes. So
Did they
everything
have
is
that
so
trivia question for you guys?
what? What was
Oh,
the trivia
before my
question?
instead I don't know why they did this, but before my movie, like this wasn't like this just happened at like my normal theater visit like
Mm-hmm.
on Thursday. Before the movie, instead of playing trailers, they just played like a 15-minute like Gladiator 2 like thing with like press interviews of them
Yeah.
and then like random trivia questions. And like one of the trivia questions was like what is Ridley Scott's like trademark thing that he's known for and it was like the storyboarding everything. But like they just
Oh,
like
okay.
they didn't do trailers. It was just a Gladiator 2
Yeah.
like 15-minute hype video before Gladiator 2.
So,
Kind of
I
awesome.
mean, obviously the storyboarding takes time, but like when he's on set, it's like super efficient, and like far more efficient than like any other like big like blockbuster like this. And he's making these movies really fast. And he's making a lot of movies. He's 86 years old, and he has really no sign of stopping. And it's like really like a unicorn in terms of just the way that he's working at this age. And so it's really great that this is really great. I'm really happy with that. He Yeah, this is kind of like a very Ridley Scott movie, but it's also, we talked about like it being the first direct sequel. I think is really great. Denzel, is a second collaboration with Denzel. Denzel, obviously a longtime collaborator of Ridley Scott's brother Tony Scott. So it was cool to see that again. I think that's really sweet. Just as like a kind of collaboration. More to the movie. I guess I wanted to bring up the day for night because that was something I really loved. My dad
That was really good.
last night, my dad and my mom were watching the Patriot, the Mel Gibson movie.
I've seen that movie like 8 times or so. They used to show that shit in a history
It was
class
like
every
on
year
TV
to
or
us.
something.
They would
And
force
that
us to
movie
watch it every
they
year.
that movie it's not bad, but that movie does have some day for night in it. But the day for night in Gladiator 2 is really really beautiful. It's just like it's super blue, and then you have like these really nice like silhouettes going on. I also I love we talked about the like the afterlife stuff, but it's like very like kind of just monochromatic sequences. And there's the sequence where um Lucius's wife is like being taken away on this like little like raft. That's
Yeah.
like really like it's really beautiful like imagery.
There's towards the end, it's in the trailer, but at the very end of the movie when
The fucking
Paul
purple.
Mescal's like
Yeah.
face, it's like a close up, and then the sky's behind him and the clouds are moving really fast and
Yeah,
it's like a pink sky. That's I really really like that
it's
so
so
much.
beautiful, and we see in the trailer like wow, like that's an incredible image. And then when it happens in the film, it's like oh, this is like such a perfect time. Like it's so perfect in relation to everything around it. It's like a really fucking strong moment at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
I don't know what else. But yeah,
Uh,
I don't know. This is just
yeah,
really strong.
no,
Uh,
it's really good. Gladiator 2, God Ridley. If you don't like it, you're lame. Uh,
Many such cases.
many such
yeah.
cases.
Many
Shut your
people
brain off
not
and have
liking
fun.
it. A whole
Oh my god.
We're going to talk about some news. But first, of course, I want to remind everybody to share some feedback if you liked listening to us talk about Gladiator 2 and Wicked. You can like, comment, and
Glicked.
subscribe on YouTube.
Glicked.
Glicked? Is it Glicked or Glicked?
I'm
Well,
getting Glicked right now.
Yeah, I thought it was Glicked. I
it
feel like
has
Glicked is
it
more fun to
has to
say.
be Glicked because that's just how it sounds. But Glicked
Yeah,
It's
sounds way
spelled
Glicked
better.
is
Glicked.
more
It's
fun.
spelled
Yeah.
Glicked.
Yeah. Anyway, like,
And
comment,
it's
subscribe. Tell
the
us if it's
wicked.
Glicked or
It's the
Glicked.
id. It's
Rate
the
the
id at the
episode
end.
on Spotify and Apple
It's
Podcasts,
not. It's not a
and
wick.
follow us at all the links in the description. Our news today: Robert Pattinson joins the cast of Christopher Nolan's next film.
Cool.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was interesting because like how big, but also it's like this movie's probably like 2.5 hours, 3 hours, right?
yeah. They also, I saw that they said that he is like one of the four main stars of the
I
film.
mean, I would assume so, but it's
Yeah.
like
So I don't think it's going to be a smaller
it's a
role than like the fourth build one, but
yeah. So then it's like yeah.
so he'll be in a substantial amount of the movie.
Cool.
Was the Zendaya thing because they were like Zendaya as a cameo role? Is that true? Do we know if that's true?
I don't know if we know if
We
it's
don't know if
true,
anything's true right
but
now.
it sounds like he's building like the white boy Avengers, and that
So like you would
that
are we
Zendaya will
thinking
probably
like
be a
the
smaller
top 3 build right now is Holland,
Holland,
Damon,
Damon, Robert
Pattinson,
Pattinson,
and then like the
possibly.
women are just like put to the bottom.
That's what it
It's
sounds
a
like.
Christopher
Yeah,
Nolan movie.
yeah, it's like every because no, it's like
Yeah, no, I
that's like
know.
like you could infer, because of his like history as a
Okay.
filmmaker. It's like that's what I'm assuming. I don't know if that is like a confirmed
Robert
report,
Pattinson and
but
Holland returning. All the devil. What is that movie called? All the
the devil all
Devil
the
all the
time.
time.
yeah.
Yeah,
Those guys
that
were in a
movie's
movie
bad.
together.
They were in a
Maybe
movie
wait,
together.
what if Robert Pattinson does like the same
He's just
voice he
playing the same
does?
guy.
Who's the person
He
that
should,
tweeted that Tom Holland is a better actor than Robert Pattinson?
no.
Moving on. We don't need to talk about rage bait.
I just
Yeah,
for
I
some
don't know.
reason I
This
thought it
is
was somebody we knew, but I don't think it was. It was just like a random.
I. I'm excited. Casting news is interesting, but I am ready for like details.
Movie news.
Yeah, I'm ready
Yeah, I
for the
wanna
movie
know.
to
Yeah,
begin
I want to
principal
know who
photography.
everybody's doing.
Yeah, it feels like we're gonna be like for
We're
the next
years out from this movie.
for the next 5 months or like 6 months, we're gonna do another casting fucking thing every 2 weeks or something, and the movie's not gonna start filming for like another year.
Right. Uh, Luca Guadagnino and Daniel Craig are being eyed to reteam on Sergeant Rock for DC Studios. It is said to be Luca's next project to enter production before the American Psycho reboot.
Yeah, so we talked about this movie and we kind of we just threw on some names, but Daniel Craig I don't think was one of them because
It makes sense
he
though.
feels old for the role. Obviously, like working collaboration, but it makes sense as like an action. Like, he was James Bond, It's like,
Right.
Yeah, he
um,
does feel, especially because James Gunn talks about how like all of like how involved he's expecting all of these actors to be in all of these different projects to be like
yeah,
this connected universe where and Sergeant Rock I think is going to be in Creature
Creature
Commandos,
Commandos.
which
Yeah.
is the cartoon, which he says all of like which is going to be voice acted by the same actors that play the live action versions.
Mhm.
Um so
Well, I'm
I don't know.
interested. I would assume maybe it's like a smaller role because I feel like that they've already done with that thing. Like, so it's either if he's gonna be in that, it's like either like he shoots it like really soon and they
Mhm.
put it in there, or like he shot that shit like 6 months ago and this has already been in the like planned thing. So I
Right.
mean, this was a rumor for a while.
Both are possible. Yeah, because this rumor's been circulating for a
So
while.
like, I mean, they totally could have like cast it, and then he
It
did the
just got
voice thing.
out.
It's like,
Like,
yeah,
yeah.
um,
Yeah.
yeah. It's. I mean, we talked a lot of. It's not really much we can really talk about now, other than
Right.
like Daniel Craig feeling kind of old for it. But I don't know. What if he's like super like CGI jacked?
That would be cool.
He's like
Optimistic.
fucking.
Sure.
He's
Yeah.
like really like. He's like a fucking like. He looks like the Hulk, but he's just like a normal looking guy.
What if he's gay again?
Likely.
Is
He's,
it?
No, I don't know. It's just
I
like,
mean,
If
Daniel Craig's not gay, and that character's not gay.
is there
but like
a
Luca
is
tends
is
to.
there a big superhero movie that's like explicitly gay? Like where like it's like I don't like there's like it's like subtext or like
Probably like a parody movie, probably like a homophobic 2000s
I'm just
comedy.
thinking like
Off the top of my head, I'm having a difficult time.
because like Batman Forever and stuff like doesn't count. Like I'm talking about like
Right, like
like
explicitly
Batman
so.
kissing guys. Like, I don't think it's a
There,
thing.
there's probably movies like that.
Oh, right, Superboy.
You could
Super
probably Google Batman kissing guys and find what you're looking for.
No,
Superboy.
Superboy kisses has like a boyfriend in one of the more recent comic iterations, and people are mad about
No,
that.
I know there
But has
was
it been
gay
adapted?
superheroes,
Or,
but I'm talking
yeah,
about like
yeah,
specifically like
like a movie
homosexual
that
movie
we,
star
yeah,
movies. I don't think that's a
Oh,
thing, right?
oh,
Right?
no, I don't
Yeah.
think
So that's what
so.
I'm like. This would be interesting. It would be. I don't know if they go that route. It'd be kind of
Yeah,
interesting for like, because like you can't even put like women in your movie. Like the women can't lead superhero movies. I don't know if getting gay
yeah.
people. I
I
don't know.
wonder what that would.
It's like it'd be,
I'm
I feel
sure
like
the internet would be a really civil,
I think
nice
this
place
is
to
gonna be a
be.
it'd be
too
a really
woke, too
there'll
woke.
be James Gunn is woke. See you, dude. I don't know. They don't have a
Yeah,
fucking problem with it. But I don't know. I the more Luca the merrier.
yeah. Next piece of news is a director that we mentioned at the beginning of the pod, Jesse Eisenberg, to direct a musical comedy starring Julianne Moore and Paul Giamatti. The film follows a shy woman who is unexpectedly cast in a local production of an original musical. Under the spell of the strong-willed and enigmatic director, she loses herself in the role in the high-stakes world of this community theater production.
There's gonna be some incredible acting in this picture.
Probably, yeah.
The rest I don't know
Yeah.
about, but I mean, Paul. So Julianne worked with him on his first film, and then I mean, Paul is just kind of
It's just Paul Giamatti, yeah.
two one of our great
Yeah, two of the
actors.
greats. Yeah.
So like just off that alone, it's kind of worth seeing. But I'm not sure. You know, Jesse Eisenberg. We kind of talked about him earlier, but
Listen, I liked A Real Pain.
Yeah,
Quite a decent bit.
no, A Real Pain's good, but it's like
At the
see,
very least, he could like direct good actors. I mean, they're good actors though,
that's
so
the
it's
thing.
like
That's
hard
the
to like.
actor director
Yeah,
thing. Is like the performances are always going to be great. Everything
yeah,
else usually lacking. It's really hard to find an actor who cares about the entire picture rather than the performances and the script.
it is A Real Pain is a film that is not shot well.
sure.
But here's the it's like I'm not shitting on the movie. It's like it's good, but like
Yeah,
it's just the
They
reality.
should find
But
like they should do like you know how like there's like director like duos and stuff. Find like a really like cracked like cinematographer or some like guy
to be with
who's
Jesse
Gareth
like
Edwards,
Eisenberg.
Gareth
and
Edwards.
actually like Gareth Edwards and like fucking like Ethan Hawke like combine their like brains or something. I don't know.
That'd be funny.
Because it's always and you can feel it when it's an actor turned director movie. It like has like an energy to it. If there are specific things that they care about and that they don't really kind of pay attention to.
Yeah, I'm
And then
assuming
just
the
you have.
excitement level for this is not that high. Then
I mean, I'm more interested in A Real Pain, just performance wise, because I'm like, I don't want to see what is it, Jesse Eisenberg and Jeremy Strong. Like that's
Jeremy Strong's not in the
No,
movie.
it's
Kieran
two
Culkin,
guys,
different
Kieran
Succession.
Culkin. Yeah, Kieran Culkin.
Yeah,
Different
different
guy from
Succession.
Succession, different brothers in Succession.
Man, yeah, I don't want to see those guys.
Yeah.
Austin Butler to star and executive produce The Barrier, directed by Edward Berger, described as, and you guys are going to hate this, Interstellar meets Top Gun.
We need to put Edward Berger away.
The Berg man.
We need to put Edward Berger
Listen,
away.
man, he's actors like him a lot.
Yeah,
Hollywood likes him a lot.
Bro,
He's not going anywhere, man. He's going to be a regular
think that he's
fixture at
gonna
the
give them all
Oscars.
Oscars. He's gonna be
Yeah, he's going to be a regular fixture at the Oscars. He's turning into who's the asshole, the Silver Linings Playbook guy?
I already said
David O. Russell. Yeah, he's turning into our new David O. Russell.
He is turning into David O. Russell.
We gotta watch him out, bro. Check his Venmo.
Jesus.
Oh.
That's no, he is. You're right.
Yeah.
Wow.
Austin Butler is busy. Doesn't he have like 6 movies coming up? Like confirmed? It's like a long list, I feel like.
Yeah, I think he's in Creature Commandos too.
I don't know if that's what I was referencing.
He's playing Elvis.
That'd be so
Doug,
awesome.
do you have any strong feelings about Anne Hathaway starring in the adaptation of Colleen Hoover's Verity, our second Colleen Hoover adaptation to hit the big screen?
Doug,
A
this
beautiful
is it.
woman.
It's finally, Anne Hathaway is in good movies.
Anne Hathaway.
Is that a PlayStation controller?
Oh yeah.
He's playing Call of Duty while we record.
Anne Hathaway. I didn't know you could see it, but I just picked it up to like hold something.
I was literally he's playing video games in the Zoom class, dude. He
No.
thought he could get away with it. The teacher just called him out.
No, Anne Hathaway should be in good movies, I think.
Yeah, I mean that's yeah.
No,
Hey,
seriously.
did you see
like,
Speaking of,
that's not part of the news, but the teaser for Mother
oh
Mary.
sorry,
Yeah,
I was
I
like
did
alluding to news that wasn't existing.
I did
No,
see the
it's not.
Mother
Well,
Mary.
we don't really do
teaser.
news where it's just like an image teasing a movie, but that is a thing that happened.
We should actually just
Involves
talk about
Anne
the
Hathaway.
image. I should do
Yeah.
like what is it called when they read out the image?
I like David Lowery. Image description. I like
for
David
blind
Lowery.
people.
Image description. There you go.
Yeah, I like David Lowery a lot.
Yeah.
And Mother Mary's gonna be good. Yeah, that's my take. I'm more excited for that than this Colin Hoover movie.
Yeah.
And I'm more
we're gonna
excited
get a
for
lot of
the,
Colleen Hoover
the
movies in the next
dinosaur
decade.
movie with Anne Hathaway. That the one with
Mm.
the David Robert Mitchell movie.
Speaking of images and Gareth Edwards, we didn't talk about this a couple weeks ago, but the first look of the new Jurassic
We're
Park.
doing 4-week-old news.
Yeah,
Let's
with
go.
Scarlett
Let's
Johansson.
go.
That shit looks so good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shout out
That looks
ScarJo,
cool.
the goat.
If only Ethan Hawke could write the script.
Do we should I gloss it? I don't know. Do you guys want to talk about the Sebastian Stan
Yeah,
thing? or
gloss,
do you
man,
care?
gloss.
Oh no, we need to talk about that. Well,
Let's
just
touch
we need to touch it for a second, just because
Let's
it's
touch
really
it.
important news.
Okay, yes. That's what I thought, but I just want to, Sebastian Stan reveals he was offered to take part in Variety's Actors on Actors for The Apprentice, but couldn't do it as no publicist would allow their client to be paired with him and talk about the film.
So this piece of news is like not great. Like that's like, okay, that's kind of bad, right? But
Yeah,
that
right.
paired with the Rachel Zegler, like her publicist making her post an apology to Donald Trump after the
Oh, yeah.
election, like these two things paired together makes
Really
me
bad.
It's really bad. It's like really bad.
Yeah.
And
It's-
that's, I guess, like all I gotta say, but it's just really bad.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah.
Someday we're gonna have to apologize.
Doesn't feel good. We might be cooked for a while.
No, I think we're gonna be entering this like new era, like this for the next 4 years. I think it's gonna be a really fucking terrible era for fucking art.
Are they not gonna let Robert De Niro in movies anymore?
I don't know if he was really planning on doing too many more movies, regardless.
Yeah.
He's gonna be in that
Dirty Grandpa
I
too.
forget. No. There's a movie and it's like a political, and like Dan Stevens is playing like a grifter, and De Niro is gonna be in it, and they just like
I
announced
feel like I know what movie you're talking about, but I
it's like
also
they
don't at
just
the same time.
they just announced like this movie, and I think Robert De Niro is playing the president.
Huh. Is it like a Donald Trump type president? Is that the
Yeah, he's just gonna be Trump. I don't know what.
I don't know what you're talking about. I'm on his Letterboxd
It's like
page.
there was like stills that just dropped like really recently.
No, but yeah, going along with what Doug said, it's going to be a 4 years of the way that people talk about movies being very annoying. That's not something to look forward to.
Oh, it's a 6-episode limited series with De Niro, Jesse Plemons, Stevens, Angela Bassett.
Oh, good cast.
Yeah, that's what it is. So not
Okay.
a movie, but that's what De Niro's up to. He's playing the president.
I see. Josh O'Connor has officially joined the cast of Steven Spielberg's next film.
Yeah, we talked about this
Like
when he was
6 months ago.
rumored to join the cast.
Yeah, but that was a rumor, and this is a not.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
weird because it was like he was the first name, and then he was taking off the names, and then
Yeah.
it was like, oh, he's just not doing it, and now he's doing it. So it's weird because it's like he's always kind of existed a part of this picture. But yeah, I mean, this made sense a while back. It still kind of makes sense. Good for
I'm
him.
excited. Steven
He's
Spielberg.
kind of becoming one of my staple guys, one of my guys that I have the most stock in, because
Josh O'Connor becoming.
No, well, because like he already is, but like I kind of like my kind of like trio of dudes was like the like Paul Mescal, Harris Dickinson, and
Bro's
like
got a
and Josh
trio of
O'Connor. Except
dudes.
Paul Mescal is now kind of
Those are just like the three. Those are like
yes, exactly. I know that was the point. That was the
Bro's
point.
got a trio.
That was the point. But Paul Mescal is now kind of like some people are like shaky on the Gladiator 2 thing, and so we need Josh O'Connor's stock to rise while Paul Mescal kind of like settles.
for your
What
like
about
for
Harris
your
Dickinson?
portfolio, so your portfolio can continue to perform well.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
what the
Okay.
fuck?
These are I it's
You
not very
reap the you
diverse.
sit there and
It's
you
not very
reap the
diverse. We could have just
benefits.
put it all there. Um, and we're gonna see
Hey
what
man,
happens.
at least you got baby girl, huh?
Yeah, well,
Oh,
I'm a
baby
little
girl.
well. Harris Dickinson is hopefully because like Harris Dickinson, there's like right now there's been like the little stall where it's like what's happening, and then Baby Girl's gonna come out, and then
Yeah, I don't think Blitz helped the Harris Dickinson stock too
yes, but
much.
as soon as Baby
Um,
Girl comes out, Harris Dickinson top of the world. Where we
I
don't
don't know about
even
top of the
Well, the
world.
problem
not like
is
top of the world, but like
they invented a new guy,
it's gonna
and
be good.
his name's Drew Starkey, and there's kind of like face melting going on, and
Yeah, but
I'm getting
until I see
confused.
queer, I'm not committed to any Drew Starkey stock
No,
yet.
but the problem is one of them needs to grow their hair out or something because it's getting confusing.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's hard, you know.
Are there any other guys? No, those are like the main ones. I mean, like, well, like
What
Timothy
Lucas
Chalamet was
now?
the trailblazer, but he's like too popular
He's
now.
too popular. He's too popular.
Yeah, so he's kind of like out of the
Oh yeah, I mean
conversation
he's
now.
Oh,
about to
Joseph
be.
Quinn. He's
Sure, Joseph
older.
Quinn is
He's a
you
little
can yeah,
older,
but like
but
you could invest. I wouldn't invest.
I was
I think
really.
he's
I mean,
good.
back to Gladiator 2, but I mean I was really that was a good. I mean
I
I
think
didn't
he's
watch
dating
Stranger
Doja Cat.
Things.
Does that affect
That's
anything?
awesome.
That
I
helps. Yeah, I think.
does that
Well, it
help?
helps. No, it helps the stock because it means
It,
he'll remain relevant as long as he
And he's gonna
is.
be in that Marvel movie.
it's like the Callum Turner thing.
Yes, exactly. It's like you're
Yeah.
gonna stay relevant as long as you're around another
Oh
famous
right,
Um,
person
Callum.
who's not
Bro,
going
I
anywhere.
is Callum Turner an actor or something? I only know him as the
You
guy
haven't
dating
seen
Dua
him in
Lipa.
anything?
I only know him as the guy dating Dua Lipa. I deleted
isn't he
like
in like? Is
No,
he?
he's
What
in
is he
stuff.
in?
Yeah, he's in stuff.
He's in a movie. I know he's
He's
in a
in a movie
movie.
that you saw, The Boys in the Boat. Did
Oh,
you watch that?
the fucking
oh
boys in the
right.
boat.
He's
He's in other
also
shit though, right? He was in stuff
he
on
is he is in other
he's in
shit.
he's like in a big movie. Like a
Like
He's
I
big
in
like
He's in
literally
Emma with Anya
oh
Taylor-Joy.
he's in you know
Oh,
what he's in?
oh.
He's in those Fantastic Beast
He
movies,
is,
right?
but he's not like the main guy. He's like
No,
He's like
okay, I
he's
know.
the
Yeah, yeah, I
brother of
remember.
Eddie Redmayne.
Yeah, yeah,
yes,
yeah, yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
He's also
That's where I
his
think I
biggest
first
credit,
saw him.
according to Google, is that Apple TV Masters of the Air show that he did with what's his name with Austin Butler,
He's
and
also in Green Room,
he is,
like
but like
seventh build.
yeah, he's not a huge part of it,
I
and
haven't seen that.
that was kind of like before
Yeah, I mean
he
he's an
was.
actor.
He's no, he is an actor. He's not really like he's not the kind of guy you put stock in yet because we
Is
just
he
haven't
more
seen
famous for being an actor or being Dua Lipa's boyfriend?
Dua Lipa's
Dua Lipa's
boyfriend.
boyfriend.
I mean, that's like not fair,
Right. Yeah.
really,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
like if
Well,
anyone,
that's like saying who was fuck. He's a really good actor. Billy Lynn's Long Halftime Walk.
Joe Alwyn,
Yeah, like
Go
Joe
on.
Alwyn will always be more famous for being Taylor Swift's
and
ex,
he's
Yeah.
and he's a
incredible.
great actor.
He is
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
is so good. Like I would put you can't. It's hard to put stock into him because it feels like he's just gonna do whatever he wants and like be kind of like a small named actor. But
Yeah.
he, I think, is one of our best in that age range. Really incredible.
He's really great.
It's just like it seems like he's picking projects that aren't like really geared to like propel him. But I don't think he really wants that. I think he just wants to be in movies and deliver good performances.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I think we named all the white guys.
Oh, there's plenty. I got plenty more, but
Yeah, well, I mean that'll be next episode, I guess. We're gonna
we'll just
wrap up there.
off.
Next episode, episode 94. We're not gonna tell you what we're talking about yet, but it's December. It's December. So you know,
We ain't gonna tell you.
Christmas gifts on the way. That's all we can say.
Ho ho ho.